Welcome everybody to today's stream. I hope you had a nice day so far. It's a wonderful Saturday morning here, and yeah, let's just enjoy and play the game for a bit. As always, if you have any questions, any comments, please let me know. Always happy to answer. So let's check out what we can do today. I wanted to take a look at Power Reaper in the open world because I have a hunch that it's actually surprisingly good. So let's, or even better than my last build guide that I did. So I think we know got this. Because it got buffed, in my opinion, because of the Mistburn Relic. Mistburn Relic is absolutely insane because it grants you 1 might whenever you grant yourself might. So you have like double the might if you get it consistently. And if you have 10 or more stacks of might, you get 10% increased crit chance. So just another stat stick. It's really, really good. So let's see what we can do here in terms of gearing. If we actually can reach perfectly fine the crit rate mark that we want to reach here. Because we get the, where is it? Depth perception. So we get 15% more crit chance just by using this trait. And we get more crit damage. So now we're at 60%. If we have Fury, can we upkeep Fury? Let's see. Yeah, with Threat we can. Then I guess more might. That's what we want. And probably this one. Let's just try out the build very slowly. I have a very specific build in mind. You will see in a second what I mean by that. Could also be good. Both of them are really good. Let's see if we can upkeep the stuff here without too much of an hassle. Yeah, those are the traits. Let's see what utility skills we want. I mean, I guess Power Reaper. Probably suffer for some conjugate transfer. Yeah, something like that. So we are creating here some kind of solo build on the go. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm just, thinking out loud what I do here. So we want to reach, because of Fury, we get 25% more crit chance. So we get like 85, so we need 15% more. And what weapons do we want to use? I think we use an axe and a warhorn probably. No, sword is better. And then in the offhand, I would use a spear probably. Spear is fun. Spear is good. Let's look at it like that. And then we use probably Marauder for that one. Let's see how close we can actually get to the number that we need to get to. So we need 75% crit rate with food. And Fury, of course, we have Fury on top of that. So what else can we put on there? We could change the rune to be a bit more like giving us more precision. Could go for Thief rune. Yeah, then we are like already at the cap. That's good if we go for Thief rune. No, maybe not Thief. Infiltration is better. Let's check it out. We don't want condition damage. Yeah, exactly. Infiltration. Okay, we are not at the crit cap yet. That's okay. Then we take a little bit more, I guess, pieces that are like, let's say go for one more Marauder piece. No, that's too much. Okay. Then we go back to Dragon. I think that might be too little then. No, that's actually almost perfect. That's good. So what sitches do we want? We want to have strength for the absolute amount of might generation. You will see why that is important in a second. And we want to have frailty. Do we? No, I think actually force is the safer option. And there we want to have again strength, and force. Thanks for the follow, 100%. Really appreciate it. As always, if you have any questions, any comments, please let me know. And thanks, Tommy. I appreciate the follow as well. Yeah, I hope you had a nice day so far. If you have any questions, always ask. I'm just thinking out loud here. Welcome, Lux. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so let's see like that. We are all perfectly crit capped. We have some wound duration on top of it. It's not too important, but it's okay. And we have very nice stats in general. And we can take the normal. I think we are like unkillable with this build, even though we are playing quite aggressive power variant. Let's try that out. So what kind of food do we use? I mean, typically we use so there are actually two options here. So of course we can go for the normal open world food where you just decrease your damage by 10%. That's obviously really, really good. You could also go for some kind of just general food that helps you, whatever you like. But there is one option of food that I really like. I don't even have it here. Good. Welcome, Eduardo. Welcome, welcome. How is it called? How is it called? It's the Get Might on Crit. Where is it? Food. I don't know how I find that in the short time. It's exotic. Maybe that's a good thing to look for. No, it's not exotic. It's rare. Is it rare? Ah, it's one of those. I have to find it. How is it called? Yeah, sure, Eduardo. Go ahead. If you have any questions, let me know. Let me check. I will find it in a second. So we want might. I mean, we can use any ascended food if you wanted to, but I don't have that here. That's the thing. Fried golden dumpling. That's the name. Fried golden dumpling. Because this one gives me might on critical hit for 5 seconds. Doesn't seem like crazy, but if you constantly get that, you actually get so high amount of might uptime. It's insane. You will see that. I mean, the might uptime is already quite good. Plate of roasted cactus. Let's see how this roasted. Ah, that one is actually better. Good point. But it's, holy shit, is that expensive. I will not buy that one. Look at the prices. What? It's insane. Okay. I mean, obviously that would be better in terms of quality. Like 100 ferocity is better than 100 concentration, but those cost like 30 copper. So welcome, Roaming's World. Welcome. Yeah, it's insane. Do you know which items I need to prioritize first from the Wizard's Vault? So I have a Wizard's Vault tier list on my YouTube channel where you can actually see which I would prioritize. But the most important part about the Wizard's Vault is that the Wizard's Vault is designed in a way if you do some dailies and most weeklies over the course of a rotation, so typically 3 months, this one will take like almost half a year to conclude, or a third of a year, so it's way longer. You get like way over the amount that you need to actually get everything in the vault. So you can purchase every single item in the vault by just going for the weeklies and the dailies a bit. You don't have to get every single one of those. So really the priority, check out my tier list, what I would purchase first. But in general, you will get everything if you just play the game a bit. I'm not joking here. It's really, really easy to get this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm roaming spirit. You know, this is the mindset. You know, I don't purchase stuff that is expensive just because I have gold, because then I will lose my gold. The whole thought process here is that I'm actually saving my money. You know, and by doing so, I get up to those high numbers of gold. Yes. Don't worry, Eduardo. Hope that helped you, and hopefully the tier list helps you even more. Yeah, that's true. You can actually go for the other one as well. Yeah, good point. Winterberry sorbet. Yeah, that one is obviously holy. That is way better. Let's put that one. Let's get that one. And I just wanted to showcase this build, you know, because it's like, I really think this is insane. This has 33% chance, so it's actually the highest. But let's see. Yeah, exactly. It sounds like that, but I have to be honest, it's just a very good mindset to have in Guild Wars 2. If you really want to make sure that you actually just always get enough money to purchase something after a reasonable amount of time, saving money on the small things is actually helping quite a bit. I'm not joking here. It's saving quite a lot of money over the course of time. I have a whole video about that topic, and I think not all people liked it, but I personally think it's actually very important to understand that. Okay. Look at that. I can permanently stay in Shroud. What? That's insane. That's insane. The perma Shroud build is here. That's insane, and my healing is like crazy as well. If I, for example, if I go in Shroud, you will see I go in Shroud, instantly heal to full life if I'm hitting the target. Or not almost instantly, but quite fast. Holy fuck. This is insane. This is really good. Spend every single dime on something else. Yeah, I mean that's fine as well. Everyone can play how they wanted to play. So if you're wondering why I'm using my 5 skill, even though there is no CC bar, it actually does provide me Fury. So it's really, really important. So now I will just use this, and then I get a lot of... Yeah, that's a good build. It might not be like the absolute, like... Because you don't have Sakiros, I think Sakiros Relic might even be the safer thing, but just permanently in Shroud, that's like the absolute Reaper fantasy, you know? It's insane. It's really good. I like it. I like it. Cool build. Cool build. And you can actually use any weapon on it because you are permanently in Shroud. It sounds like a good build. It's really fun. It's just, you know, it's just this one trait actually. Blighter Spoon is so insane. That means that you get life force when you are not in your Shroud. No, wrong. They changed it. Gain life force when you apply a boon in general, all the time. So you get 1% life force whenever you apply a boon. And you do that like on a second cooldown or even less. Because it's like insane how much might output and might generation you have with the Mistborn Relic especially. And then if you are in Reaper Shroud, gain health instead. That's the catch here. So you can actually heal while you go in Reaper Shroud, and then you come out and you will have full health. It's really, really good. I think I spent at least 5k just for inventory bags and other stuff for noobs. About the same amount for my guild. I mean, that's like a really cool mindset of being a nice, generous player, because if you don't need going for legendaries and stuff, that's completely fine. I do giveaways and stuff sometimes, but of course I don't want to give away all my gold, because that's also a little bit sad, you know. You want to actually get some stuff for yourself as well. But currently I don't have any big goals, so there will be more giveaways coming in the future as well, don't worry. Yeah, I know, it's better. It gives you concentration. This one just gives you concentration, which is obviously not the perfect way to go. Yeah, you're completely right. I'm just, you know, I wanted to have the most budget variant, but I wanted to, for people, if I want to do a video about it, I also want to mention the most cheapest option, you know, because it's like the difference between 100 ferocity, yes, it's definitely notable, but it's not like absolute, the thing that is like measuring like if you kill the boss or not. And you could even go for the Ascended Food if you have really big struggles because you don't have protection. So this just helps a bit. I was actually thinking of going for a different trade line and going, for example, for Death Magic to get protection uptime. But then I thought you lose so much damage by not going with this trades. It's actually, yeah, I think this is a very cool setup. There are many, food is like really cool in Guild Wars 2, especially for open world builds. I think there are so many options that are actually really decent in terms of food. So I personally think that's how, in general, gearing in Guild Wars 2 and runes and relics should be the same. Always like an open world with the food, where you have so many options depending on what kind of build you're playing. I think if the relics would be the same, that you have like 15 relics that you could use depending on different situations, that would be amazing. It would be so good. Welcome, Winslow. Welcome, welcome. But yes, I wanted to speculate. What do you think about the new icons that we got? We got 3 icons over the course of the last week. So we got the loot, whatever that icon means. We got the helmet, and we got the unknown entity of space or whatever. So let me know what you think about it. I want to speculate in today's stream about it. Have you ever done a build that doesn't need food, a self-sustained build, so to speak? I mean, food, you can easily, I would say for 99% of the builds, you can just not take food at all, and you will be fine. Food is just like the last 5 to 15% of your damage or your utility. You can easily lose that, and you will be fine like in 99% of the content. But I would say, why would I do a build that is like deliberately worse if I can just mention what the food is actually on top of that and makes the build even better? So that's the whole thought process there. I think new elite specs makes expect Guild Wars 3 to take much longer. I have to be honest, I think that is just a confirmation that Guild Wars 3 takes longer. I think there was no realistic expectation that Guild Wars 3, when it will ever come out, if it will ever come out, that it will come out in the next like 2-3 years. I think that's very unlikely. So I totally agree with you. I think this is now confirmation that we get the next expansion and maybe even one after that. And until then, we don't get any information on Guild Wars 3. Yeah, for sure. I'm not sad about that, because I personally think I enjoy Guild Wars 2, and a lot of people actually enjoy it as well. And especially if we get elite specs, it's surprising how much new content or how much more fun we get in the game, even if we don't get crazy amounts of new content. That's at least my take. I hope it's a new spec for each class. However, they didn't post anything yesterday. Probably new class. No, I think my most likely prediction here, what I think is the most likely thing to happen, is that they didn't post yesterday, because yesterday was the 4th of July. 4th of July is a public holiday in US, I think. And that means that, or at least for ANET, and they didn't do any work there. So that's why they didn't post it. And if you count the number of days that we actually have until the 15th of July, which is the Tuesday of not next week, but the week after, where we get the announcement, whatever it is, yeah. And this, if you count the working days, you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and again Monday. That means 6 days. 6 days are exactly 6 days where you can release 6 icons again. So we have 3 already, we get 6 on top of that. I think it's quite likely that it's just 9 elite specs, and we will just get 6 more in the coming days, like a countdown. That's my most likely thing. Yeah, that's what I expected. But hopefully now we get a new teaser every day from now on. Yeah, I think exactly. That's my most like hope thing, because I have to be honest, I highly doubt that it's one class with 3 elite specs and 1 core class. I think that's just very unlikely in my opinion. The reason for that is that why would they make so much work for one class that like there are some players that don't want to have a new class. They will have no new content, no new features out of that. So making a new elite spec for each class gives every player something new to play. Whereas a new class is only for people that actually are enjoying playing a new build on a new character. So I think a new class is highly unlikely in just the marketing sense. I think it's not that likely. I don't see it happening, to be honest. And I think if we get on Monday another icon, it's like a very, at least on Tuesday when we get another one, I think we are very, very likely to say this is like elite specs 100%. Right now, yes, there can still be an argument that it's not, but I think it's very likely. A new class plus subclass would be good. I don't think so. I that might be a really hot take, but I think a new class brings way less people into the expansion than if it would be a new elite spec for each class. Because a new class is really like locking out a lot of people, or you have to create a new character and you have to build it up again. You can still see the aftermath of giving us the 9th class, which is Revenant, after all the 8 core classes. It's the least played elite spec for a reason. Not because it's bad, it's because people don't want to start over again. That's the problem. And then adding a new race in conjunction with it would probably help, yes, but I still think elite specs are by far the best, most likely and highest sellable scenario. Really, I'm really like believing that. Welcome Esteban, welcome. First of all, I'm a World vs. World player. Could you explain to me why on Guild Wars 2 people play 80% open world, why in Final Fantasy and WoW people do mostly raids and dungeons? It's a different mindset. In Guild Wars 2, there is like, the mindset of players is like they want to engage in the game without having to play it really hardcore, or at least having to find groups all the time. You don't want to play a perfectly optimized build in a group scenario. You just want to go in, play a bit, get some loot, and go out. And whenever you come back to the game, you can play it. But it's not like you want to always look for a party and play very dedicated builds and stuff. You want to just have fun in Guild Wars 2, play very casually. That's the mindset a lot of people. Doesn't mean everyone plays like that, but I think a big amount of the community plays like that. And that's why it's like the anti-WoW Final Fantasy stuff, where you don't like, you have to always be on top of your build and your gear grind and stuff to actually get into the highest groups and stuff. In Guild Wars 2, it's like the opposite. People just play whatever they want. They will always succeed because open world is quite easy. So that's the whole casual gamer mindset, I would say. That's the difference. And in World vs. World, you have both mindsets, to be honest. Welcome, Skytex. Welcome. Playable Kodan would be sick, but imagine having to design every single armor piece of the game. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the Prime, Con. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think getting a new race would be a big hype for the new expansion. But I think the amount of work that they put in for a new race, that you have to redesign a lot of armor specs, or just maybe say, no, we don't do that. And then you have like a lot of armor pieces looking really bad, or not even being able to be worn on a Kodan or whatever comes. I think that is not very likely, because a new race is also not the highest like payback. So an elite spec keeps you playing for a long while. Where a new class, you play the character and then you might continue playing, or you might quit after you leveled it and you get the main story and stuff. So I think the most development effort value that you get is new elite specs. No new class, no new race, elite specs. Because everyone already has the characters, they will just get into the new maps, blast, and get the new elite specs. That's my take. Tengu, yeah, like, there are many options for races. I think people would love that. I personally think, for me as a gameplay enjoyer, I don't care. I play any race and it doesn't really matter to me. So I think elite specs are way more likely to be a big blast for everyone, because I think no one would say elite specs are boring. No one says, nah, I don't want to play a new elite spec. Or at least I don't know that many people that would say something like that. But a new race, I think a lot of people would say, yeah, maybe I try it, and after a while it's just the same character over and over. I would rather have a new elite spec, to be honest. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Yeah, Guild Wars 2 open world content is definitely, I would say, better than Final Fantasies and probably also WoW's, but that does not really justify why people don't want to engage with raids and strike missions in Guild Wars 2. It's just more that Guild Wars 2 is like, the players are very casual, they don't want to be committing too hard to specific, like, try-harding. And that's what is different in my opinion. Welcome, Evo, welcome. I'm good. I was in a guild back then with like 15 to 20 people playing optimized builds, and we killed like the 100-man Zergs easy, but it was fun for all of us, the tryhard ones and the casual ones. Yeah, exactly. I think World vs. World is where casual and the tryhard people meet. That's like world versus world in a nutshell. That doesn't always end well for both. It always depends a bit on the situation. In Zerg, it can be really fun. In roaming, it can be quite frustrating if like one good player fights 3 casuals and the casuals lose. That can happen. But I always think world versus world is like the true end game of Guild Wars 2, at least in the beginning of the game. And then they decided to put more Guild Wars 2 open world and more PvE raids and stuff out. And that really made the game a little bit more spread, and people accepted that Guild Wars 2 is like not coming close to World of Warcraft, the Final Fantasy, in terms of instance content, which is, I would say, a shame, but that's just how it goes, and they have to focus on something, and they focus on open world. That's just how it is. Yeah, what can I say? I'm happy either way I play the game, and I hope that the next expansion at least gives us something in terms of instant content. So maybe a new fractal, maybe a new strike mission. Yeah, something like that. But I don't really see that we get crazy amounts of content. Maybe 1-2 maps, but I think the biggest feature of the next expansion will be the elite specs. I'm pretty sure about that. They put a lot of effort into those, and I think that's like the guarantee of them that it will sell. You know, even if there are only 2 maps at the beginning, it will probably sell the expansion if there are 9 elite specs in there. You know, that's like almost guaranteed. I also have seen a 6-player group today totally destroying a 50-player Zerg. It was fun to watch. Yeah, it's really cool if you can pull something like that off. Zerg busting is so good. I really enjoy it. Maybe I will do some videos about it in the future if I find enough people to do that. It's really, really cool. Yeah. If Anit wants to cash in on nostalgia towards Guild Wars 1, they have to bring in all beloved classes back. Yeah, and as elite specs. Exactly. Dervish, Ritualist, Paragon. I actually have to be honest there. I actually expect exactly that. I expect exactly that we get at least the classes that were like very popular back then, back as elite specs. There might be some new ones as well, because they don't have 9, I think, back then. But in my opinion, that is the most likely scenario, because this is what sold EOD, like single-handedly, that they went back to Counter. And I really think that this will now be the big selling feature, bringing old classes back for the 6th expansion. I think a lot of people, even me as someone that didn't play Guild Wars 1, would be hyped about those classes. I would be hyped about any elite specs, to be honest, but I totally think that old elite specs, so to say, old classes that already existed, have a little bit more like nostalgia feeling for sure. New player about 3 months in. Just now getting into World vs. World and I really enjoy it. Just looking for a good build for a new player. Is it viable to use a Zerg build, but still once in a while stray away from you on your own? Yeah, of course, that's completely viable. Just don't expect to win against someone that is perfectly optimized for solo roaming, stuff like that. I would say Zerg builds, depending on what kind of Zerg build you are playing, some of them are very supportive, then you have more problems to actually deal with others. But if you're playing, for example, somewhat bruisery DPS, then you can easily play that. Yeah, for sure. And I have some on my YouTube channel as well, some really nice build guides that you can also use in a Zerg. So just check them out. Yeah. I'm personally most excited for the new Rev Legend. Malek's voice lines leaks show that it's a female demon legend from Nios. Finally, another proper evil edgy thing. Really? That sounds cool. I mean, I have to be honest, I don't know what exactly Revenant Elite spec would be the legend like. Even like, is Ritualist like the thing that Revenant would get as an Elite spec? Is that like the Ritualist class? What kind of Elite or Revenant legend would it be then? I really don't know. I have no clue about lore. You know, I'm not a lore guy, just playing for gameplay. So I'm not completely sure about that. But interesting, very interesting. Maybe Renegade is not the Ritualist, but a lot of people would really like to have some Ritualist. So I really don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, 11 years ago, you know, that's a long time for a game. It's a long, long time. Yeah, I would say more stun breaks are very good as well for roaming, because you're very likely to fight someone that has a lot of stuns and CCs, and you are not very like prone to having a lot of stability uptime, of course. So typically in Zergs, it's like you have stability, whereas in roaming, you don't have that frequently. So you really want to make sure that you actually, yeah, what can I say? That you are guaranteed to at least survive 1 or 2 stuns without being CC chained after that. Yeah. Yeah, Celestial with Thrapper is really good. That's true. That's just like very good combination. I mean, Trapper Rune is like, not everyone can like get that very easily. You have to craft it yourself, but it's a really good one. Look at this. I can just hands off keyboard. Like, what is this build? You know, I'm permanently the Shroud. It's what? That's insane. This build is crazy. It's, I think, the easiest open world build. What? It's crazy. You may be aware that Dervish class had a sight in Guild Wars 1. Yeah, it was a really cool weapon. But this weapon is not in Guild Wars 2 now. How would they solve this? To be honest, we already have a class that is using a sight, which is Reaper. And I think they could solve this in a similar way. That they say, okay, we want to give you Dervish. And Dervish just gets some kind of transformation, like Celestial Avatar, like Reaper Shroud, something like that, where you go and get a sight and play with the sight. That could be the case. Something like that, without adding a new weapon with skins and stuff, because that's, I think, very unlikely that they will just give us one and that's it. I think it's more likely that they will give us for each class a new weapon, but I think that will not happen anyway, because that's too much work. I think it's just an elite spec, no new weapon. That's my prediction here. Welcome, Camille. Welcome, welcome. Hope you had a nice day so far. Exactly. They could create a shroud of some kind. I think that's the most likely scenario, that it's like not too much effort for them, but still provides us with the sight or some kind of gameplay of that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, like Balthasar and that kind of stuff. I think that makes sense in my opinion, just lore-wise as well. But I personally don't know which kind of class would get the Dervish. I think Dervish could fit to multiple classes. I'm not completely sure if it's like guaranteed to be one of the ones that we expect. We don't know. I'm on EU. I'm on EU. But yeah, I personally think there are so many options. You know, there is the Bard. You know, I talked quite a while in my video about the Bard, !Bard in the Twitch, by the way, if you want to get my speculation there. But the loot that we see could be for a lot of classes. To be honest, the Bard could fit like every class if they would do it correctly, in my opinion. The ArenaNet is insane in terms of creativity, you know. Mesmer uses a greatsword as a ranged weapon. So the Bard could be, in my opinion, every class. Does it mean it has to be like Mesmer or Ranger? No, not at all. It could be anything. I don't see Warrior or Elementalist having it, or Necromancer, but you never know. Welcome, Howl. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm with you, Dynamico. I think Bard is very likely to be on Mesmer, some kind of Minstrel or Bard elite spec, because that's what people asked for a long time ago. I'm not sure if ArenaNet would troll us as much and just say, nah, it's now on Ranger. But I think it makes sense to put it on Mesmer if people asked for it. I think they really want to give us now the elite specs expansion that people asked for. So I think a lot of people asked for Minion Monster, Necromancer build, something like that. And I think that could be like coming. I don't know which kind of elite spec that would, how it would be called. Maybe the Lich or something? Could be. I don't know. Would be interesting. It could be some thief with an offhand warhorn. Yeah, sure. Could be the Bard as well. I'm not sure if that's very likely, because I'm not sure if thieves really asked for that, and ArenaNet really wants to make sure that the expansion sells crazily and just give us everything that we asked for and people will buy it. I think that's the biggest prediction here. Whoa. But what can I say? Yeah, exactly. It could be on Guardian as well. It might be insane, but it could be. It could be. Would love Bard on Mesmer, but want him to have some DPS option and not just be full boon provider. I have to be honest, I expect, that might be a hot take, but the new elite specs that we get, if we get them, it's like 90% sure that we get them, in my opinion. Do they fill a specific role? So look at Necromancer right now. I have Harbinger, that I'm the most aggressive Necromancer without having the Shroud, but I can provide quickness and I can heal even if I wanted to. I can play it offensive. I have Reaper, which I can only play offensive. And I have Scourge, which I can play as a defensive healer or some kind of offensive damage dealer as well. So which kind of niche could my last elite spec fill? Maybe it's minions. But for example on Mesmer, I have no clue which niche you want to fill because there is no niche on Mesmer that is not already covered. So I think there might be multiple options how to play the Bard or the Minstrel, how it is. Yeah. So I personally think it is quite likely that the Bard can be played as a full supporter, like Chronomancer, Heal Chronomancer, or some kind of aggressive Bard as well, that deals damage while buffing its allies. I think that could be very likely in my opinion. But I don't know. That is just my take. I need a new offhand for Thief. I think that is rather likely because they added a lot of two-handed weapons like Rival and like... What was the... Rival was one, and Staff, exactly. I think that's quite likely that we actually get some, I would say, more options in build crafting than just a two-handed weapon. I'm pretty sure about that. What should your ghost for warrior? I was thinking of start a staff support one this week. I think staff support warrior is probably getting very, very good in the next expansion because the interesting part about it is that I expect Warrior to get some kind of support elite spec. Because Warrior is the only class that doesn't have an elite spec that is like clearly made for supporting. So I think if you start playing a Staff Warrior now, and in October you get some kind of support Warrior elite spec, you can even go further on that. That's my biggest prediction for Warrior. I think Warrior will get some kind of supportive spec. Yeah. An AoE Condi build for Thief. Yeah, like I said, Bard can go on so many different classes. I think the problem that they have, if they would put the Bard on Thief, for example, is that a lot of Mesmer mains would be really sad because they asked for Minstrel like 12 years ago or something, or even longer. So in my opinion, it might be like really like be mean of ArenaNet to say, okay, we give you the Minstrel or the Bard, but it's on a different class. I think it's quite likely that they will just give in and say Mesmer gets it and Thief gets something else. But I don't know. Could be a AoE Condi spec anyway. And isn't called the Bard, you know. Could be. We need our Drunken Guy elite spec, Paragon, because I wanna shoot around and wear no pants. I think we get Paragon, we get Dervish, I think we get maybe Ritualist. I think Ritualist is a little bit harder in my opinion because like we mentioned already, Renegade is feeling very much as a Ritualist already. So I'm not 100% sure how the Ritualist will be implemented. If it's on a Revenant, probably, how it would look like. But I think Paragon is very likely to actually be in the game with the next expansion. I would be really surprised if they wouldn't call one elite spec Paragon. My money is Bard. Is Mesmer if not Ranger? Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Exactly. They want to appease the player base. And that's the main concern. They don't want to make new fantasies that didn't exist before if the player base asked for something that is like not in the game yet and they just want to please them. I really think so. That's my, you know, how do you make the most money? You make the most money by giving people what they actually want. That's just the truth. And that's why I think it's very likely that we will get that. First time I saw the icon with the ball, the arrows, I thought about some gravity Mesmer with replacing skills and stuff. I'm with you, Livra, that it looked very much like some kind of gravity planet thing. And I think that could be engineer, to be honest. It could be some kind of crazy tools engineer or something. Could be. Elementalist as well. But we really don't know. Could be anything, to be honest. It's really unknown and really mystical, I would say. The second league was for Warrior. I would say it's either Warrior or Guardian, the second one. I think it could be some Valkyrie or Paragon. I think this is the most likely thing. Does it mean we will get it for Warrior? No, not necessarily, but I think Warrior is probably the most likely one. Ritualist will probably be on Necro. That would be interesting. Ritualist as some kind of minion master spec. That's actually cool. I like the idea. Haven't thought about that actually, to be honest. That's a really cool idea, Winslow. I like that one. I like that one. That's good. Do you think this will be the last expansion? Like some Duma streamers? I personally would say it depends a bit how they market it. I don't want to say now this is the last expansion. I personally actually think it will not be the last expansion in that sense, but it might be the last like 1 yearly expansion. And after that, we will just get like some, I don't know, some living world updates and stuff like that. And no like big expansion sale anymore, maybe. But I think 1 or 2 more expansions is the most likely thing. I actually think it's not, Guild Wars 3 will not come out in the next 2-3 years. So I don't see why they would stop giving us expansions and getting money from us. I really don't see it, to be honest. Ritualist could also be on Elementalist. Yeah, that could be. That would be very interesting. I think Elementalist will get some kind of Arcanist or something that is really going into the 5th element, so to say. I think that's the most likely prediction, but I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Mesmer was to be the Bard in the beginning and they changed it, yes. So I think it's actually quite likely that Mesmer will get it because of that. I don't know what engineers ask for. Engineers cover a lot of roles. I really don't know what kind of engineer spec would use some kind of gravity or crazy tools for the universe. That is like what kind of role they would fill or what they would do. I don't know. Could be anything, to be honest. I have a suspicion if they are making new elite specs that they could have put on Guild Wars 3. This means that Guild Wars 3 is not that close. Maybe, but I'm not sure how close the development of Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3 is actually. I think they are like probably quite disjunct and not really like working together hand in hand. I think they are like one team is working Guild Wars 3 and one team is working Guild Wars 2. I think there is no some crazy transitioning between Guild Wars 3 to Guild Wars 2. I think it's more like the other direction where you try to get as much from Guild Wars 2 into Guild Wars 3 that is actually working well. Yeah, they should make another expansion cycle. Yeah, I agree. Welcome, Howl. That's good. Good. Now you're on Twitch. Yeah, they could definitely just choose a different name. That's what they typically do. If they, for example, want to get a specific class fantasy in the game, but don't want to have the name in there, then they could make a ritualist without the name. Sure. If it feels the same role. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's Guild Wars 3. We talk about it very often on stream. If you're a new player, just enjoy the game as it is. You will play Guild Wars 2 for such a long time before anything happens to it. Don't worry too much, yeah. Did I have any chance to complete my Legendary Collection before Guild Wars 3 is even worth it by now? I mean, it depends what you mean by completing. If you mean completing, getting every single Legendary to the maximum amount of slots, so that you, for example, have like 4 Astrolarias or let's say 4 Claw of the Khan Urs. I guess that might be a little bit of a stretch if you don't invest a lot of real world money. But if you want to just get full legendary gear, I think that's possible for sure. For sure. My dream for engineers to have a mech pilot elite spec. Not just a pet, but you go in. That would be interesting. I think that actually could be something like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Do you know when Guild Wars 1 was released, if there was enough content compared to Guild Wars 1? So Guild Wars 2 was released in 2012, and the content that we got was like, I would say, the leveling experience. We got like, I don't know, 30 maps, something like that. And the dungeons were the end game, and Guild Wars 2 had PvP and World versus World. That was like the state. So I think the PvE end game was not really good, but you had the PvP World versus World option to continue there, and that's what a lot of people did. So I'm not sure. If they want to please the community with the new specs, Ranger will probably get a range spec with bow. Could be, yeah. I mean, but how would it be called? What kind of niche would it fill? Some long-range sniper spec or something like that? Sure, maybe Archer. Could be really boring. Just say Archer and people would maybe be interested in it. Sure, yeah, good. Good prediction, I would say. I'm halfway through ED story and I'm wondering if fishing is a good gold farm. It is. 50 gold per hour, if you do it correct. Fishing is surprisingly good and very consistent. 24/7 farm method is really good. You said earlier in this build I'm permanent shroud. Where can I find this necro build in your channel? I will upload it in a while, in like a few days. I was testing it today in the early parts of the stream, and I will upload the video. Don't worry, I will create it very soon. Yeah, but right now it's not there yet. It's really good. I wouldn't say that it's like that I like the idea because I'm an Asura fan. I'm actually not that much, but I would definitely agree that the idea of an engineer shroud skill, why not? You know, why not? That's somewhat fitting to engineer. Come on, let me pot. Yeah, you could go for the Bard in some kind of Final Fantasy style and it's some kind of Ranger. Yes, for sure. But the thing is, what I would say is a little bit of problematic here is that the Bard would be really suited for a Ranger, but then it would take it away from Mesmer, and then it like would offend the Mesmer mains that were asking for it like 10 years ago. So I think that's not what they actually want to do. That's my prediction there. But I could be wrong, of course. I could be wrong. Oh, the old pets, the spirits of the pets. That would be very interesting. I doubt it. I think Ritualist is very fitting to Necromancer. I have to be honest now. Yeah, you could make some musical instruments. I think that would also fit to Mesmer though. You know, could some kind of like psychic instruments. Why not? You know, you never know. I think that's what they could do. Some kind of tomes for Mesmer would make the class even more broken. But yeah, I guess. But would have the spear mechanic of the thief, playing your notes differently or different scenarios. That's cool. That's really cool. But I think it depends heavily how they implement it. Would the new elite specs get new weapons, or would they just say no? The new elite specs will be only elite specs, no new weapons. We don't know. I think the new Revenant Legend will be all skill flipping. That's what people wanted Vindicator to be. That would be really interesting. I think the new Revenant spec is for me like a big, like, I don't really know what the legend would be. Because it's like you have a Condi legend, you have a support legend, you have like everything. So you will probably have whatever it is, will be multiple uses cases where you can use it in support or Condi, where you can use it in power or Condi or whatever. You know, there are multiple use cases for it. But I really don't know how it would play. I think they will probably teaser us in like 11 days or something. And then we get some slow live stream reveals over the course of the next month. I'm pretty sure about that. So we guess we have to wait, yeah. My guess is that Elementalist gets a true mage spec. Seen many people complain that Elementalist is basically just a high intensity melee class at this point. Yeah, I think it could be very well that it's some kind of Arcanist or some kind of Battle Mage or something, where you really want to stand in the backline and free cast stuff, so that you empower, for example, when you are above 600 range or something, or above 900 range. Could be completely, but I'm not sure how that would actually look like in what kind of scenario we want that, because in PvE, I think a range class that is really only used at full at range is really bad, because you always want to stack to get the boons and stuff like that. Even in open world you want to do that. So I don't really, I think they give you the option probably with this elite spec, but you don't make it like guaranteed that you have to do it, otherwise it's useless. I think that's my prediction there. The notes will be F1 to F4. Yeah, that could be. They completely change the shatters and you get the notes on Bard. Yeah, sure. Could really be really cool. And that you like juggle, like some kind of, if you played League of Legends, I think the Bard could be something like Sona, which is this champion where you can juggle the tunes that you play. I think that could be something like the Mesmer spec. I'm pretty sure about that. They have to rework the staff to make it like a mage. I think staff rework, in my opinion, is something that is on my table together with the Weaver rework since like 6 years ago. I really think so. Staff is like currently in a spot where I would say it's really weird and they have to give it some help. I really think so. I think the spear should have been the ranged option, but it's like the only like power ranged option. And you really want to have a long-range Condi option, and staff is feeling like so sad if you can only use spear as a long-ranged option for damage, for power. I don't know. Staff needs some help. A side weapon, yes. That's for sure. That's what we probably get as some kind of dervish ritualist. I don't know. We will get a side. I'm pretty sure. For Bard type, I could think about a tome mechanic like Firebrand. Exactly. I really think so. This is very likely that you just use upkeeps, that you use skills that are just comboing with each other to actually make a melody or something, and then you get some bonus like that. I think that's quite likely in my opinion. Does that mean it will be like insanely good to play? I don't know. It's really highly dependent how they implemented it, but I trust ArenaNet that it's some cool idea and some cool thing, because I have to be honest, I think one of the things that is like the best about ArenaNet's development is that each elite spec feels amazing. There is no elite spec that feels shit. Maybe someone disagrees here, but I think all of them feel really good. Monster Hunter Horn gameplay would be crazy. Sounds cool, sounds cool. Yeah, I'm trying my best, Hole. Sometimes I forget to oversee some message, so please just write it again. Thanks for the tier 1, really appreciate it, Hole. And thanks for the Prime RS, really appreciate it as well. Thanks for your support. Staff is either World vs. World Zerg weapon for calling down meteors, or otherwise a pure support weapon. Exactly. And I think this would be okay if you have a staff, or if that would be some kind of weapon that is really useful in those scenarios, and you had some other weapon that could fill the ranged 1200 range DPS weapon that people wanted to. But the spear is, in my opinion, not completely filling that role, so it's really sad in that sense. Memezone and Viva feels shit in World vs. World. Yeah, I think Viva is only in Zerg play, and Memezone is like, I don't know, you can make some crazy builds, but is it really good? No. So I think they need some help, for sure, for sure. Welcome, Aoki, welcome, welcome. And then there's Revenant Scepter. Yeah, I think there is some, don't get me wrong, I think the elite specs are very well designed that we have. I think the weapon design, on the other hand, especially the new ones, some of them are a little bit lackluster. For example, Revenant Scepter feels a little bit clunky to use. And I also think the Elementalist Pistol feels also not that great. So there are some exceptions where I would say the weapons don't feel that great. But the elite specs that they put out, there is no elite spec that I would say is not really cool and really interesting. You could make always the argument it's not the design of the class or something, sure. But I think in terms of gameplay, I think all of them feel great. It's just the weapons sometimes that are not that insane, for sure. Even Core Warrior performs better in World vs. World? Sure. Core Warrior is actually surprisingly good in all game modes, actually. Yeah. Ritualist matches best for Necromancer? For sure. Yeah, I think it feels really fitting, and it could be some kind of spirit summon, some kind of minion army, something like that, for sure. Both are light classes and similar lore-wise. If you read about them in the wiki, the same goes for Revenant Dervish. They both are heavy armors and lore match. I mean, cool. Then we have a match, and I think that is quite likely that they will give us. How it will look like, how it will play out, I don't know. We will see. We will see. In my opinion, Mesmer would work with a Gravity style spec. Yeah, sure, we already have Gravity well, but I think then again, we don't get the Bard for Mesmer if it's some kind of Gravity spec. And then people would be upset again, and I think that's not what they want. That's my biggest argument. That's why Mesmer, in my opinion, should get Bard, because people, or Minstrel, because then they will not get upset. Soto was really weak with new class options that it offered. I mean, it didn't give us any new classes, it just gave us new weapons. And I think the new Soto weapons, in my opinion, feel way worse than, for example, the spears. I think the spears were way more fun to play on each elite spec than most of the weapons we got with Soto. The biggest selling point of Soto is that we got new weapons. Okay, they are decent, but not that fun. And they gave us the weapon proficiency, so that you can use, for example, the pistol of the Harbinger on a Scourge. That is like the biggest selling point of Soto. I'm not joking. It's so good. Is it fun? Not necessarily, but it's really good. Spectre definitely needs a little more weapon diversity than Scepter Pistol. I agree with that. It's just they buffed it so much and they made it so very like, this is the weapon to go for. And it needs some kind of new weapon. The new elite spec should maybe, if it gets a new weapon, then maybe Warhorn offhand or something. That could then be used in conjunction with Scepter. Maybe. We will see. But I'd actually predict that we get an elite spec without new weapons. I'm pretty sure about that. PvE DPS Weaver feels really sad since the new patch fired DPS Tempest going same benchmark with 1/3 of the APM. Yeah, Weaver is like, in my opinion, needs some help. I'm not sure if the Inferno Tempest should exist in that high benchmark either, but I think Weaver needs some help. Yeah. Oh no, I have to move. Crazy. How long was I standing there? Welcome, Chuddy. Why do you not recommend Spear on Spectre? Is it because it's just better power weapon? Please give your input on this. So Spear is like a decent power and conti weapon, but on Spectre you really want to use the Scepter. The Scepter is like, for each Spectre build, is like the best option. There is no Spectre build that is like better suited with this thing. You could play a Condi Spectre and you could use Spear there, that's fine. But I would say in any support scenario, you want to have the Scepter. Scepter is insane and it's really, really broken in all game modes. It's just a very good weapon. That's my take there. Bard Minstrel for Mesmer, then a bow spec for Ranger. Both classes mains are happy. Exactly, that's my big prediction, I would say, yeah. Or Minstrel, yeah, however you call it. I think I just call it Bard, but it could also be Minstrel. I think it doesn't really matter. I think that's very likely for Mesmer. And then we have already covered like 4 elite specs or 5 with the Paragon. I think the only one that we don't have any clue about is the Engineer one, the Thief one if we put the Bard on Mesmer. Elementalist could be Arcanist, and Necro could be Ritualist. I think we covered a lot of them already. It's really nice. Let's see what we actually get. Maybe we are completely wrong all here in chat, but would be interesting. As a Thief main, I didn't get to enjoy the weapon mastery thing since Staff, Rival, and Scepter only truly work with the respective elite specs. But yeah, I see how it's for other classes. Exactly. I think Thief was one of the only classes where it's like not really mattering that much because the weapons were really bound to its elite specs by the traits, by the usefulness of it, by the general thought process why you would use the weapon. So I think Thief doesn't care about Soto that much, which is actually, in my opinion, a good thing. Because Soto made it so that the build craft, the theory crafting of when you would take a weapon was like way less interesting because you always take pistol on a Condi belt on Necromancer. You would never not take it because it's just so good. So it's like really sad it made the build crafting way less diverse. And on Thief you don't have that problem. So don't be sad about it, to be honest. Yeah, most open worlds builds are condition damage and power builds are locked behind either Soto or Chantia. Yeah, because you need the Sakura's Relics. You can only play power open world builds typically if you have Sakura's Relic, which is Soto, yeah. But I have a tier list for each of those. So tier list for builds that are actually not using Soto or Chantia Wilds. So you can actually check them out and there are some builds that might surprise you there, I would say. Yeah, Troubadour would be really interesting. But I think it's very close to Bard in my opinion, so I'm not sure. Mistcaller Spec Ref, getting Legions fights you as an upgraded Fresh Galemon. Yeah, it could be. I don't really know what Revenant Legend would be looking like. If it's really some kind of demon that we have teased, maybe then. But I don't really know what exactly would be the gameplay of it, to be honest. So maybe you have some ideas there, but I don't. What if they take the other 3 bows from Guild Wars 1 for the Guild Wars 2 Ranger Elite specs? Could be. I don't know. We will see. I really have the suspicion that Ranger gets Archer or some kind of like something like that, because that's just the thing that people asked for, a long-ranged, just useful spec that uses bows. Yeah. Ritualist returning would be cool. Maybe Paragon too. Exactly. Ritualist, Paragon, and Dervish. I think they are quite likely, maybe with Bard, that we get those elite specs. Yeah, pretty sure. We could also call up on old heroes like Zed the Centaur. I mean, I think that's the whole idea of like Revenant, that we call on old heroes, but I'm not sure which one we will call up on. If it's really some kind of demon, I have no clue what kind of demon it would be that we call up on. But I'm not a lore nerd. I really don't know what actually is the thought process here. Paragon for Warrior? Yeah, Paragon could be Warrior, could also be Guardian. I think the other one will get Valkyrie or something like that. It's my prediction though. Could be anything, to be honest. Yeah, and I think an Assassin spec for Thief could also be really cool. I think Thief, this doesn't really have an Assassin spec. You have Daredevil, you have Deadeye, Deadeye is the sniper, Daredevil is like the bruiser or the Daredevil, what can I say? Inspector is like the Necromancer style one. So I think some kind of assassin spec that is leaning heavily into stealth attacks and stuff like that. Why not? You know, but it could be anything, to be honest. Yeah, but then there are like the evil. You know, Malex was already summoned as a legend, so I'm not sure if we get another like evil demon. Maybe we'll summon even Pater. You know, could be. We don't know. Why not a music playing and dancing Guardian as a bard? Could be. Like ArenaNet is like absolutely insane with what they put out, you know. Sometimes they give us crazy weapons like Hammer Ranged Revenant. You know, you never know. Maybe they put out a bard for Guardian. Yeah, sure, could be. We really don't know. And I think giving us a bard on another elite spec is always better than giving us no bard at all. Because if they people asked for the Bard like 12 years ago, and I think it's very likely that we will get a Bard. I think that's the most likely elite spec, to be honest. Be careful what you're wishing for. Thieves are irritating in PvP. Yeah, I totally agree. I think having a stealth sneaking assassin spec would be horrible for PvP and World versus World. I'm just saying a lot of people asked for that. That doesn't mean it's good and healthy. Maybe they nerf it so much that it's not playable there. I think every single elite spec that will come in with some stealth stuff is not healthy for competitive modes. I really think stealth is too broken in Guild Wars 2, and it should not be like buffed any further. Maybe Scarlet. That could be actually. Scarlet, and yeah, that would be very interesting. I would like that idea. Would be a slight story spoiler though, I guess. Maybe they even make a Bard Thief, so to make it better support class. But to be honest, I think Thief is not really needing any support spec anymore because you have Spectre. I think Thief will not get support that much. I think it's more like you want to play it differently. I think the only spec that gets like a clear support spec would be Warrior, in my opinion, because Warrior is really missing some elite spec support for support. So, like, you know, Spellbreaker could have been that, but it doesn't provide any boons, or not that many, to its allies. It's more bruisery. So I think it's, in my opinion, quite likely that we get some support Warrior spec. But that's just my take, you know, I could be completely off here. Core Thief can already one-shot, then port out. Yeah, I think there are a lot of Thief builds that actually can do that, but some kind of Assassin build that actually fits the role of an Assassin even better, maybe, but in my opinion, for Thief, it could also be some kind of pirate spec. That might be a very hot take, but we don't have any kind of pirate spec. So I think Thief could fit that role. And I think that would be very interesting. And I don't know how it would look like, but yeah, maybe. Do you have a guide for Thief roaming, World versus World? Do I have that? You have to check out my spreadsheet. ! builds in the Twitch chat and you can check it out. I hope they will make elite specs for Warrior that is useful for allies. Yeah, exactly. I think supporting allies in some way it's like almost a given on Warrior, pretty sure. I think Elementalists will not get an Assassin spec. I think that's not what people asked for. They want to have some crazy mage fantasy. I really think that's the more. Corsair, Sword, Offhand, Thief, Wild. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, why not? Are you planning to do a Zero to Hero series in the future? I mean, if a lot of people want that, I will do it. Right now, I am quite busy with the elite specs and stuff and talking about that. But when there is some like downtime where nothing is happening because we don't get any big things happening, then I think Zero to Hero, why not? Yeah. Pirate sounds cool. Ditch the stealth for stats and debuffs, maybe with some scurvy flavor mechanic. Exactly. That would, in my opinion, that would be like a healthy way of giving us a new play style that is actually quite fitting to Thief, in my opinion. Because pirates, after all, just thieves on the sea, yeah. Yeah, with shouts, ahoy mates, yes, exactly, something like that. I mean, I think that sounds like very like an elite spec, you know. It's not like completely changing the class because you're just still playing thief, but it feels like more of a new playstyle that is like. I think that's my prediction. I think that sounds really really nice, yeah. If Thief gets a pirate spec and they remove stealth, oh boy, then I create a Thief. I have to be honest. I think they will not add a new elite spec that is heavily focused around stealth. I think that's a very unhealthy thing to do. And they noticed that with Deadeye, because when they put out Deadeye that you get stealth on dodge, that's something that is very toxic in competitive modes. And they had to nerf it like 3 times already or even more. So it's really not like. They will probably not give us that. We already have that if you wanted to play that. I think it's not very likely. Would be great if you do a CM progression. Yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting series. If I had people that wanted to do that, sure. But I think the problem is always finding people that want to do progression runs. Especially if they caught on camera. So it's not that easy. I should do a video? Okay, that's interesting, yeah. Roaming Thief. I will put it on my long list of build guides that I want to do. Yeah, we'll do it, Domenico. We'll do it. Okay, let's go and get the dragon. Just check the spec for Thief. Most core specs are kind of used in other elite specs. Only Trickery could be expanded with more heavy steel focused specs like rerolling stealed item or something. Yeah, I think that's actually quite interesting, to be honest. That, for example, I think how is it called? There is one trait, improvisation and that kind of, yeah, exactly those traits. And they feel already a little bit like you could make use out of them on some kind of pirate spec. I think that actually makes sense to some extent. So I have to be honest, I really think that is the most likely scenario that we will get. Trickery, some kind of stealing thief that is like heavily leaning into some kind of watery thing, yeah, as a pirate. Why not? You know, why not? Now you want that? Nice. Very good. Very good. We have some hype going on here. That's good. That's what we want. Pirate Thief and rework mechanist to jump into the mech like a shroud. That would be a dream. Yeah, I think if you asked like for a lot of people what they want, I think some stuff like that comes up very frequently. And I think ANET really wants to please the community with the next expansion so that they sell it more than Chance Wilds and Soto, because you could easily see the trend that it's going down, the sales of those expansions. People just buy the bigger expansions like End of Dragons, Heart of Fire, Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire. I think those three are way more sold because they give us way more content and they give us elite specs. So I think bringing back elite specs so that the just number of people that are interested in it goes drastically up. So I think it's very likely that we get stuff that is actually very commonly like asked for. Really, I think that's the most likely thing. Pirates don't steal, they plunder. Yeah, maybe then they will rename the steal to plunder. Yeah, maybe. It sounds like a thing they would do. Sounds like really cool, to be honest. Marcus Straw, thanks. I always am happy to hear that. So welcome back to the game. Very nice, very nice. Exactly, that's what you call the class mechanic. That's my prediction. That's my whole prediction. Yeah, as always, if you have any questions, any comments, let me know. I'm always happy to debate some stuff and give you some answers. But in general, I really like to talk about speculation about the elite specs. And to be honest, we have like a little bit more than a week to do this. So I will probably do a video when all the elite specs are teasered. It's probably on Monday before the release, where I would give my prediction how they are called, which class will get it with the icons. And then we will see how much I got right and how much I did get wrong. That's probably quite fun, to be honest, to compare that then one day later. A pirate would require changes to skills so we can do a sea battle. That would be really fun. I'm not sure how much like development effort they would put into stuff like that. If they would do it, I think that would be really fun. I doubt it though, because I really think it's not like their main effort to put off some crazy features like that. But you never know, you never know. Welcome, welcome, JK. Welcome, Faiz as well, welcome. So for me, a good way to check is look at the class core specs and look if they got advanced through an elite spec. If not, they could do it then. Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, for sure. Maybe Pirate Thief gets a drunk meter, some mechanic to get drunk and dealing base damage on that in cost of a drunk movement. I think they would probably go more and lean into some kind of, I don't know, pistol-y, like gunner style thing. I'm not sure if they really wanted to go in the drunken way, but you really never know. ANET could do anything, to be honest. They are like very, like, they have really good ideas when it comes to elite spec, in my opinion, how to really make them unique and really interesting. I think that's just the most, like, I predict that the new elite specs, whatever they will be, however they will be called, I really think they are quite likely to be really, really good and really fun to play for everyone that enjoys a class. You know, there is almost no reason to believe that we get like an elite spec that someone that plays the class will not enjoy. I really don't see that, to be honest. Do you think Necromancer will get Ritualist specialization? Yes, that's my prediction. Something like that. And also, not only Ritualist, but it will give some summons there and maybe some spirits. I think that's quite likely, to be honest. Yeah. Quite likely. They even could force a weapon set like on Bladezone. They could do that. I'm not sure if they wanted to do it, because that's like always a little bit... That's one of the biggest downside of Bladezone, is that you only have one weapon set. And Warrior has like so many weapons, so that really makes your build style very like lackluster. So I think, yes, they could do that, but I think it's not the smartest way if you want to catch the most amount of people. So in my opinion, I think they should try to make the spec without having any negatives coming with it. Only positives. You know, I don't want to see a Chronomancer 2.0 where I lose my... How the lags are insane. Yeah, so I don't want to have a Chronomancer 2.0 where I lose my distortion just to have a drawback for the class. I think that's really bad. I don't want to have any drawbacks. Yeah, elite specs are the best thing about expansions? I'm sure. I think so. And it have good ideas, of course, if we exclude Catalyst. Yeah, I think Catalyst is not the craziest idea, but it's, in my opinion, still fun to play. You know, it might not be, like I said, the class fantasy, you could debate about if the class fantasy or the design of the spec is good. But it feels fun to play, in my opinion. You know, it has some funny interactions with the auras and stuff. I personally like all elite specs. Yes, you could make the argument the fantasies are not given and not really good all the time. But the gameplay is fun. That's at least my prediction, that it will also be like that in the future. Would love to get a Warrior Tower Shield. That sounds cool, yeah. It's a support, yeah. Catalyst is a child Azure that got fancy shiny ball to play. Yeah, I think Catalyst is like really just one more button. That's like not a very good design in terms of how unique it is, but it feels fun to play if you do it correctly, in my opinion. But maybe I'm just a little bit biased on that. Is there a chance we get a new class? There is still a chance, but I have to be honest, it's not that high. It's not right now. Maybe on Monday, on Tuesday, if we get 2 more icons, I think it's quite likely that we can exclude a new class. Why do you think we don't see more Spectre in the pro scene, if it can be called that after all the buffs? So I think in PvE it will be very good in the pro scene, but it's like Chronomancer is still better. So why would you take a Spectre if Chronomancer is better? That's just my question that I ask you back. And in competitive modes, it's actually surprisingly good already. It's always used in competitive PvP. It's really good, the weapon. Or the class. So yeah, I would still say Spectre is not used in PvE as much, but it's, in my opinion, people use it already quite widely. Especially, for example, in Fractal CMs, they use it quite consistently as well. Yeah, so there are actually reasons to play Spectre. Kata is only fun because it's good, but the gameplay is so lame. Yeah, I agree. If Kata would be bad, if it would not give enough boons, if it would just not deal enough damage, Kata would actually be the lamest elite spec for sure. But because it's so good and power crept right now, it doesn't feel like that. So I totally get that Kata is probably the worst elite spec in terms of design. Pretty sure about that. But I think it's still fun to play because it's good. And that's good enough for me. If a class is good enough because it's like just having the numbers to support it, I take that as a win. You know, I just want to play classes that are fun to play. That's like the only thing that matters to me as a like enjoyer of gameplay. Paragon spec makes you able to use secondaries with Spear. That would be interesting. I like that idea. I'm not sure how they would implement that perfectly, to be honest, but sounds like a really cool idea for sure. Okay, so let's do the Dragon Bash dailies. We need a spec that can dual wield shields. I have to be honest. If they would open this kind of like box of giving us dual wielding, some kind of like dual wielding scepters, dual wielding shields, that would be insane. People would be loving that. But I think that's too much development effort. I think they just give us one new elite spec with a trait line for each class and no new weapon. And that doesn't include anything with a new double shield or something. I don't see that, to be honest. But it would be really cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they don't have the manpower in their current Guild Wars 2 development that is actually supporting stuff like that, at least in my opinion. I wouldn't say I'm mind controlled, but that's obviously something that someone would say that is mind controlled. So I don't know. I don't know how I can prove that it's not the case. Paragon will be a thing for Warrior to expand on the shout stuff. Yeah, I think that's quite likely, to be honest. I think if I let's nail it down. Yeah. So what would I predict for Warrior? I predict some kind of supporting spec, maybe a Paragon. I don't know how they would call it. That uses shouts, that uses some kind of defensive way to buff the allies, and it's really like the support spec, like the missing support spec for Warrior. I think that's the most likely scenario. On Guardian, we will get a Valkyrie or something that is like very like, or Paladin or something, that is like the classic knight playstyle. I think that could be, yeah. But I don't know, of course, I don't know. Keep it up. There's streamers with positivity. Yeah, I mean, I try my best because I'm positive right now. I'm quite hyped about it, and I really want to share that hype because I think this is like a very good spot to actually enjoy Guild Wars 2 right now, because there is not new content for the next 2 months, but at least we have some fun stuff to talk about, and I think that's enough to keep me interested in the game as a content creator, for sure. Well, you need main hand support weapon to pair with Warhorn. Yeah, that could be like a big thing, but in my opinion, the problem is, do they really give us new weapons? If yes, Warrior gets a main hand weapon, for sure. If no, Warrior has to stick with the same weapons and play Staff, probably Dagger Warhorn or something like that. That's just how it goes, I guess, if we don't get a new weapon, yeah. Yeah, take care. I will. Yeah, Guardian has already saved yourself, but they did already just once rename a retreat to advance. So maybe they will rename save yourselves to something different just to make it a little bit more like that Paragon will go to Warrior. Maybe. They did it before, maybe they can do it again. Doesn't mean it will be, but it could be. Could be. Catalyst is actually the most hated elite elementalist spec. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not what people like too much. I agree. I totally agree on that one. I think I have to do... How much more do I have to do? Let's check. One more boss. Let's do the boss then. So we could get more of the anthems or ballads. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's fitting, I think Warrior already has shouts, so giving something a little bit more intriguing than just shouting could be good. But I really don't exactly know what's gonna happen. I really don't. Could be anything, to be honest. And we can't name Specs Valkyrie because it has too much connotation with female Nordic warriors, and it would feel strange to be male Valkyrie. I really don't know if they care about that, because, for example, they also named a spec Dragon Hunter, and I think Dragon Hunter is one of the worst names for an elite spec ever, because it's like very bound to the Guild Wars 2 lore and is not really telling anything about how the spec performs or what it actually means. So I think they could call it Valkyrie, but I think you're right. Of course, that's too much of a connotation of like female. But yeah, I get what you mean for sure. Nice, we got the weekly done. It's also perfect time to start play Guild Wars 1 till next Guild Wars 2 expansion release. Yeah, then you will see all the classes. I agree. Good point. I hope Revenant doesn't get the Dervish. I don't know who gets the Dervish, to be honest. Dervish is for me not very like clear which class actually gets it, to be honest. Could be a lot of classes. I would call DH Lightbender instead. Yeah, I think DH is like, not a lot of people enjoy the name of Dragon Hunter. I think it would be way more interesting if it would be called something that is actually like, not as like, I don't know. It sounds so unrealistic. So all the elite spec has some really nice fancy name, and Dragon Hunter is so blunt. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. So yeah, Valkyrie means chooser of the slain. I mean, that sounds like a very good name then for an elite spec if it's not female like connotated. But a lot of people always think, oh, it's female, and I think then it's not that good. But I think if it's like completely fine to be used on a male and a female character, yeah, sure, go for it. I think, to be honest, it's really interesting because we have the minstrel stat, we have the Valkyrie stat, and you know, there could be actually a lot of names that we have the stat type that we get now in this expansion as elite specs, you know, some like conspiracy theories here. For Elemental, I would love to see a slow attunement slop, like stacking up a resource for every weapon skill to be used in the attunement and switch for big effect. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Welcome, Kyla. Welcome, welcome. That sounds like a really cool idea. Thanks, by the way, for all the follows. Really appreciate it. And I personally think Arcanist is my prediction for Elementalist, but I think your idea could also be quite interesting. What's in your opinion the best DLC for Guild Wars 2 if looking at elite specs? For me, it's PUF. We got Viva, Holosmith, Mirage, Renegade, and more. In my opinion, most develop these specs. That's a good question. I think I would exclude EOD. You know, EOD is for me definitely the worst of them. I think the Heart of Thorns elite specs are the most nostalgic, whereas the PUF ones are the most broken ones and cool, crazy new ideas. So I think for me, it's like very close between Heart of Thorns and PUF. I think the PUF ones are more over the top, whereas the Heart of Thorns one is a little bit more grounded. End of Dragon ones are for me just way below that because they are not bad at all, just not as good as, in my opinion, the other two. I think probably you're right, PUF from a just design perspective, probably those are the best. Probably. Nah, there are some really good ones, like Herald is really good. I think Chronomancer is extremely good. Stuff like, I'm not sure. I think it's really hard to actually choose there. I will put them quite close, to be honest. Lightborn weapons for DH and the Lightborn naming would be, yeah, that sounds really good. Light magic, something like that for Dragon Hunter or for Guardian in general. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's do some strike missions now. Let's do some strike missions. Let me quickly set it up. Oh, maybe it might just join. For a dragon, you need a bow, and it's some big game hunter with traps, so it kind of fits the lore. No, I'm not saying it's not fitting the lore. I'm just saying it feels really bad from the naming convention because you have something that is really cool, like a Tempest, like a Chronomancer. Yeah, that is clearly saying what the class is actually about. And then you have Dragon Hunter. Dragon Hunter is like, what is the class about? You don't know anything about the class. It's just a name. It's just a name. Whereas Chronomancer tells you so much about the class and how it could be played, and it's exactly like that. So, what can I say? It's just, I don't like the name of it. Is Untamed still the best in open world? It depends what kind of scenario you want, but I think Untamed is still very, very good. I'm not sure if it's still the best, the absolute best, but it's definitely one of the better ones. So now we have to make a tough decision. Drop V8. Do we drop Aegis or stability? I think we drop stability. I personally like Elementalist for Viva, but Elementalist getting a low intensity spec, maybe even restricting you to 2 elements instead of 4 would be good for the game. Yeah, I guess you're right, but I think at the same time, it would be quite hard to implement that with the traits that we have in the core trait lines and stuff. If you only have access to water and fire, for example, what does happen with all the traits that happen when you are turned to earth and air? How can you make a spec that is actually good by still having only 2 attunements? So I think that's actually not that easy to implement, to be honest. Got better at Spectre, by the way, thanks to your encouragement, and I'm totally in love and confident with my main now. Perfect, that's what we want to hear, Valentine. Don't worry, that's what we want. So let's show off some nice CCing here, I guess. I really like the new Staff Necromancer changes, it's really fun. So let's just concentrate on getting it right here in the beginning. We lost only no one, but some DPS, I guess. That's okay. So now we do the CC. And now we pull. So do we get another one? That's the most important part about this spec. You do the pull after the CC so that you can guarantee that your friends get the second special action key. Yes, yes, yes. Aren't we all Dragon Hunter? Exactly. The naming is, in my opinion, just a little bit misleading. So now we need more healing. Now we need to dodge as well. Give some H's here. Very good. Willbender could be named Imperial Salad or Justica. Yeah, I think I really like this Justica idea. Does it mean they will rename elite specs? No, not at all. I think elite specs are very, like, they guarantee us to be exactly like that. I don't think they will ever rename them. I think the most that we will get is probably some renaming of some utility skills or something like that. Maybe Save Yourself is like one of them that I expect to be renamed if we get a Paragon. They are a little bit, I mean, a little bit spread thin here, to be honest, my allies. Can't get the rest now. Sad. All transfusion would have been so good. In my opinion, they could force specific elements together from the get-go. That's really interesting, I agree. That would be very interesting. But it's like, I have to be honest, like, I'm not sure if Weaver was like really difficult to implement. Yeah, and if it was, I don't think we will get something that is as difficult to implement as Weaver. I think it's quite likely that the new elite specs will be fun and have some cool mechanics, but they will probably not be completely game-breaking like Weaver or something like that, where you have to implement like crazy amounts of attacks as well. But that's just my prediction, to be honest. Seems like Staff Necron was so OP in PvP, they nerfed it. Yeah, it was like really annoying in PvP, in like competitive, like 5 versus 5 monthly AT and stuff. They were running like 3 or 4 Scourges just to bunker the like complete map down. It was insane. So 3 or 4 per match out of 10. It was really, really annoying. And now they nerfed it just because it's not a good, it was not like a really good spec, it was just very hard to kill, and that's obviously always very annoying if you have bunkers, so that's why they nerfed it. In ranked, I would say it wasn't that crazy good. It was decent, but not like carrying every match. Being tanky in ranked is always something that is like not as good as having like crazy damage. Yeah, Imperial Salad. Yeah, no, that's not it. That's not it. Willbender sound like someone forcing his point of view on you. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea what it was supposed to be. Does it mean it's good? Not necessarily. But I think it's a better name than Dragon Hunter. I think Spectre is a good name. I think Scourge is a good name. Stuff like that. They have decent names, to be honest. But not all elite specs like have that advantage, like Dragon Hunter, in my opinion. Like a double attunement from the start, like F5 makes you switch between fire and air and water and earth attunement. So fire and air is offensive and water and earth for defense. That could be, yeah, that could be. I don't see why not. But I have to be honest, I can't predict what they will do to Elementalist. I really don't know. Could be anything. I don't have any like crazy clue what is like the most likely thing to happen to Elementalist. Because Elementalist, as like for example Mesmer, doesn't have any like open niches, in my opinion, that you don't have like at all right now. So for example, Warrior doesn't have a support elite spec. That much is clear. But what kind of elite spec or role would you fill on Elementalists, on Mesmer, that is like clearly saying, okay, this is like missing and we need that right now? But I don't know, that's just my take. Before the staff changes, I've always had 200-300k team heal on a full damage build. With the changes, it could go easily up to 700k. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Core names. Some names are well chosen, but the translation sucks. Like, how could Firebrand be Aufwiegler in German? Yeah, I mean, the translation issue is something completely different, to be honest. I really can't tell you this is like, to be honest, translating is always, in my opinion, you will have some issues there. So I think you should go for the original name and make it suit the class very well. And after that, yeah, you take what you get. But I think it's stability for my friends. Nice. Yeah, this is really nice now. Range stability, very good. Yeah, I personally think the names is not the craziest thing about Elite Spec. I really think the best thing about Elite Specs is always that the gameplay still suits the class, while being different enough to make it interesting for players to actually just try it out. Yeah, I really think so. So, in my opinion, I think the elite specs, especially some of them, for example, like Tempest, like Weaver, they are easily perfectly suited to Elementalist, while also changing the class well enough to make it very interesting to play. So, in my opinion, it should be the same with the new elite specs, 100%. I mean, for Mesmer, if it's Minstrel Bard, I feel like it should be another support focus spec, but then it will be in competition with Chrono, which already is a powerhouse in terms of boons and heals. Yeah, I think because of that, I think the new elite spec that we get for Mesmer will be like focused on multiple things, so that you have support and damage, or that you have like some kind of unique buffing ability that, for example, provides allies with a buff that gives them their attacks bleeding or something like that, so that you can buff them up because you're some kind of bard, you give them some poison or something like that, or some whatever, you know, make it a little bit more crazy in terms of what the elite spec does, and not just say it's a buff spec that gives boons, because then it's competing against Chrono, nowadays even against Mirage, and you are like the third one, the third wheel, so to say, and you don't really care too much about it. So yeah, I think it's actually quite hard for Mesmer elite spec to be crazy good. Virtuoso is a masterpiece. Yeah, I think Virtuoso, I am a little bit torn when it comes to Virtuoso. I think they are like, Virtuosos can be really good in terms of design, and sometimes they are not that good. I think it depends highly on who you asked and which situation you're looking at, to be honest. Would be a great non-targetable buff on Mesmer? Exactly. I think something like that would be really interesting, something unique, but they removed unique buffs like that in the last few patches, so, or the last few years rather. So in my opinion, I'm not 100% sure if that will be the case, because they don't want to make it more unique, the classes. They want to have every class being quite similar. So does that mean we won't get it? No. Does it mean we will get it? No. Could be anything. I didn't have my stability yet, that's sad. Virtuoso roleplay is really cool. The whole Spectral Dragger theme, yeah, I agree. I think Virtuoso is very cool in a design. I can bring that up every stream when Virtuoso comes up. I think Virtuoso should have been a power baseline spec, and they should not have any Condi in there, because Mirage is supposed to be a Condi spec. I think putting Condi and power and even support in all of those Mesmer specs is not good. So that's just my take. But in general, Virtuoso is a really cool design. I like the dagger idea, and that you have like those Spectral Daggers like you can see here. I think that's cool. I like that. And it's really fitting to the class. And people asked for having no clones forever, and now you get that. So it's, in my opinion, just ideal. And I hope we get what we asked with the new set of elite specs as well. Yeah. I would love to see the Signet Mesmer from Guild Wars 1. But we have Virtuoso with all the signets. Yeah, I think, to be honest, if I like would have said before we got any icons, what kind of elite spec Mesmer would get without any icon, yeah? Really, I want to stress that before I got the Bard icon, I would have said Mesmer will get an elite spec that is focused around hexing. So applying some kind of curses, debuffs to enemies. That is unique to the class. With the Bard now released, I really don't see that happening anymore. I think that's not really fitting a Bard's playstyle anymore, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can cook up something like that. Can you change Ascended Amulet stats? Yes, a few of them. Most of them you can't. So a few of them you can change, some of them you can't. Oh, most of them you can't, some of them you can. That's more like it. Bloodstone Fan one and the PvP ones you can change. But that's about it. I do not like what they did to Mirage. Maybe Dooncloak is better now, but for me, Mirage is a spec which should not use shatters all the time. Yeah, I agree. We don't have a good spec that is like keeping up clones. Good point, actually. Mesmer is always about shattering and stuff, but maybe we get an elite spec that is like about not shattering, so keeping up clones. And I think I got a really good idea under one of my YouTube comments that was saying something like, why not make the elite spec of Mirage or of Mesmer that we get some kind of like Bard that then gets like the clones as some stationary objects that are like some kind of shades for Mesmer, that are like band members or something, yeah? Some kind of Siren Party. Yeah, something like that. I don't know, it would be really interesting. I'm not sure if they can make that happen, but I think that's a really cool idea. Really cool, I like it a lot, to be honest. We will see what we get, to be honest. We could also look on classes that don't have that specific mechanic like stances, shouts or signet. Sure, they could easily fill those roles for sure. Or Wells, yeah. I would love a puppeteer Mesmer with clones and not disappearing on enemies' death, but following you until they die. Some kind of minion monster for Mesmer. Yeah, that's a cool idea as well. Maybe you can control the aggro like ranger pets. I think the problem is that it's not like, in my opinion, very likely now with the bard. I think it's maybe you have some kind of like the bard is using like some kind of flute, like some kind of mystical figure that uses a flute to hypnotize some rats or something, maybe. But I think that's too crazy. I think that's not gonna happen, even though it would be cool. What if bard is ranger? It could be ranger as well. I'm just saying, Mesmer players asked for bard minstrel spec like 12 years ago already, and if they now give it to ranger, I think a lot of Mesmer mains would be sad. Doesn't mean that they won't do it. I'm just saying it's more likely that Mesmer gets it. I tried Mirage and my brain can't handle the rotations and stick to Virtuoso. Yeah, Mirage, especially now, the new Condi Mirage build is like very hard to play. It's very high damage, but it's very hard to play, for sure. No, I won't do the EOD strikes. I'm sorry, Sky. I will not do it. I will do some Cold War after that and maybe some World vs. World. That's like the thing. I just want to have a relaxing, chill Saturday today. Nothing too crazy, just speculating about the game and just having fun. That's the whole idea. Not really like going too hard into the gameplay, because then I can't talk to you that much. That's the idea. Do we even have a spec that works like the Ranger Spirits? No, we don't. I think that could be very well suited for some kind of ritualist, to be honest. That like you get a mix of the Ranger Spirits and the Renegade Spirits on a Necromancer. I think that could be very like fitting to ritualist. Yeah, that you could summon some spirits that buff you in some kind of area. Maybe they can move if you use a specific trait. That would be even better, that you can alter it by using a specific trait. I really like that idea. Yeah, that you have some area, like for example my staff skills, they have an area where I buff them, and if I take a specific trait, they follow me around. This is really cool design, to be honest. I really want to emphasize that I think the traits are the things that make me most intrigued about it, because if the traits are like changing the gameplay in the subclass itself, again, that's amazing. So I really hope so. Ritualist had the Ghost Pull, PvE skill, and Guild Wars 1. Could be possible. Sounds cool. Sounds really cool, to be honest. There we go. There are so many cool ideas. I'm really hyped about this. You know, it's crazy. They just give us 3 images, or icons rather. It's not really an image anymore. And I'm so hyped about it. It's actually really crazy how much like just small announcement here that we don't have any like big facts about it yet. And still I'm so hyped. It's really nice. I hope they do like for the rest of the 100 days or something until we get the expansion. I really hope that we get like the hype continuously hyping up. I really hope so. Problem with changing how clone shatters act is with the interaction with 2 other specialization you select. Not saying it's impossible, but it's much more work than with other classes, for sure. I'm totally with you. You always have to take the core trait lines into account, for sure. And some of the core trait lines on Mesmer are like really weird to interact with that. But they did it before with Virtuoso. You know, Virtuoso doesn't have clones. And all of the traits that, for example, happen when you create a clone, happen when you create a blade. Even though the blade generation, in my opinion, is even more broken because you can do it more consistently than clones. So I personally think they can do it if they wanted to do it. We will see if they want it. You never know. ArenaNet is like not giving away anything what they actually put out, to be honest, other than the icons. Like making the shatters the ghost control, like you pull to you, pot them on you on a place, or pull them focus a target. Yeah, I really like that ghost idea. I really think that's very fitting to Necromancer, some kind of ghost army. Why not? That's true. You kind of lose all the on-shatter effects since you want to shatter them. Yeah, you will lose them, but maybe you can like... Maybe you can still shatter them, and they are stationary, you know, so that you get the buffs because you shattered them and they are providing the buffs around them, the damage around them and stuff. But you will also destroy them. So it's not in your best interest to use the shatter all the time, but you can easily put like the shades on Necromancer. Like if this is the enemy, I can put my shades on it and then can use my shade attacks and it will attack the enemy. So maybe that's the same for the Mesmer spirits or the Mesmer band members or whatever. I think that could make sense that the shatters still apply around this. It needs to be balanced carefully, of course, because that's like absolutely broken. If you put that on a conquest node or in PvP in general, the balance after the elite specs will probably be insane and completely like out of whack for like months. But I guess that's fun, I guess. So we will see. We will see. Hopefully there's a beta before the expect. Yeah, I expect it, to be honest. I really expect that we get some kind of beta event, like probably in some kind of late August, maybe in September, something like that. I really expect it. They always did it, and to be honest, at least always when we had elite specs. So I really see that is quite likely, to be honest. Maybe they don't have enough work done yet, so maybe it will be in October, but I think that's then too late to actually make some changes of the feedback. So yeah, that's just my prediction here. But could be that they don't want to do a beta event this time. We really don't know. But do you have any crazy ideas with these 3 icons? For example, the mystery icon. I think the mystery icon is, to me, like completely with our like guessing game. I think it could be engineer, it could be elementalist. I mean, it could be also thief if we don't have something for that. So there are already some cool specs that we could get there. I'm not really 100% sure what kind of gameplay that icon would lead to, you know, the third one that we got. I really don't know. I don't see what actually is the spec for that one. But I think engineer is probably the most likely one, to be honest. Yeah, Arcanist, like I said, I think Arcanist for Elementalist is very likely. I'm not sure what the icon then means. What is the icon about? Like, what is it showing us? I really don't see it right now. But maybe you are right. Maybe this is the Arcanist. I think it's Engineer, and we don't know the name of it yet. I think we will get the Arcanist icon and it looks more like a flame or something. Yeah. Or some kind of like fifth element style. Yeah. Shatter could extend effects like the spirits from Ranger, so it kind of pulses bleed stacks, and when you shatter, it gets instantly a couple of bleeding stacks, so you can let it pulse and then shatter close to fainting for a slow stack or shatter for instant burst. Yeah, that sounds really well thought out. I like that idea. Cool. Let's see. You know, at this point, it's speculating because we don't know anything about it. But when we get the names, maybe with the expansion announcement, we can speculate even more. And then there will probably be, hopefully at least, some kind of, how's it called? Live streams, developer live streams, where they show off at least 3 elite specs per live stream, and then we build up some hype. That would be really amazing, like they did with the EOD specs. I was really hyped back then about the streams all the time when it happened. It was really, really nice. I hope they will do that as well. If Bard is light and Paragon is heavy, it should be medium, maybe Ranger. Signaling Rival will be available. Yeah, I think you could be right with that, but they trolled us so hard before, so I don't really know if it's light, medium, and heavy. Could be only heavy, it could be only light. We don't know. Let me quickly hydrate. And I think getting the Rival as a new weapon for Ranger is only possible, of course, if we get new weapons for each elite spec as well. And I think, to be honest, I see it more likely that we don't. Because of the weapon proficiency of Soto, it would be like a new weapon for all classes. And I think that's not what they actually want. They want to give us a new elite spec that is easier to balance than the new weapon without making it too overpowered. I think, to be honest, the most likely scenario for me is a new elite spec without a weapon. But I can see Ranger getting a rival, of course, if you get a new weapon, for sure, 100%. I saw a Reddit post saying it could even be Revenant, because the icon kind of looks like an eye, and Core Revenant and Vindicator incorporate an eye in the icon. Good point, could be. Then we don't have any clue. I mean, it could be Revenant, yeah, 100%. We don't know anything of how Revenant will play out anyway, so I think Bard is definitely not for Revenant. Where am I? Nice, nice. And yeah, so that's just, you know, my prediction there. That we don't know anything about Revenant, and if it's Revenant, sure, it could be like that. Does it mean we will like know anything more because of that? No, could be anything, to be honest, at this point. But it's not bad, you know. I actually enjoy having more speculation time. Sure, we will see. We will see. Skirmisher, spec, ranger, pistols, and rivals. Yeah, sounds cool. Sounds cool. So it would be fun to have a spec that can be played slow or fast, like the when to shatter choice. I think that's how Mesmer was expected to be played in the beginning, that you have the choices to shatter or use your clones for damage, with the phantasms being very different than they are now. And that got like pushed out of how you play Mesmer quite a while ago. So will there be something like that with the new elite specs? Sure, could be. Does it mean we will get it? Not necessarily. It could be anything, to be honest. But I think if Mesmer gets the Bard, it is very likely that you are right, and that something like that could happen for sure. Maybe we get lucky and get an actual pet ranger range build. Yeah, something like an archer. Something like that, yeah. I think that's actually not very unrealistic. I think people asking for some kind of longbow ranger spec in a long while. So if you get some decent trade support for long-ranged weapons, sure, I think you can see that for sure. The ball with the arrows could also be like a planet and its rotation, astrologian spec for Mesmer. I would love that. I think, to be honest, that would be my most like hyped up spec that I could get. I really think so. I think getting an astrologian, I really like that in all kinds of like games. That is for me one of the most fun things to have. I don't really know if Mesmer gets the Bard, astrologian is not very likely to be included because it's most likely suiting some kind of Mesmer. But I don't know. I think this could easily be the astrologian, and you are absolutely right, and I would be so hyped about it. Does it mean we will get it because I'm hyped? Sadly not. Sadly not. So we will see. My main issue with Mesmer is that for the last 12 years, I absolutely loved Mesmer Greatsword, which is not that great these days. I would say nowadays it makes some comeback actually, with the changes to how you play the Greatsword. And you can easily play it on a Power Virtuoso, for example. It's actually quite decent there. Even on a Power Mirage, it's actually surprisingly good. So there are actually multiple ways nowadays to use it in PvE. But yes, you're right. Spear is a little bit overshadowing it for sure. Wouldn't mind one spec like the Bladeson would fit a Pirate Thief with Sword Pistol or something. Yeah, I think Pirate Thief with Sword and some kind of playstyle like that, I think that's very suited for it. Because the interesting part is Thief's Sword is like only in a competitive mode weapon. You never use Sword in PvE ever. So I really think giving us an elite spec that actually uses the Sword very well for whatever reason, I think that would be amazing, to be honest. We will see if that's happening, but I really think that's my biggest hope for Thief. Yeah, exactly. Like the gravity-based Mesmer with astrologic background, I think that sounds really realistic. But then Bard would be Ranger, to be honest. That is my prediction then. What's intriguing is that the third icon seems to have cracks on the swirling thingies and the globe thingy, so it suggests some physical, some actual material. I've seen people say they could be bones, they could also be warhorns, they could be blades, there could be so many different things. I really think the last icon, the third one that we got, is very mystical. I think it's very unknown to me what it could be. It could be mysterious, I mean. It could be anything. Yeah, I'm really like, it's not clear to me what it will be. But that's good. Welcome, Snowbleach. Welcome, welcome. The reason I switched from Thief main is because I want a class with a sword main hand. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think it's really sad that Thief doesn't have that. In my opinion, it would be really cool if Thief gets an elite spec that doesn't get a new weapon, but we can use the sword because for some reason, sword fits perfectly for that playstyle. That would be amazing in my opinion. We will see. Maybe even some kind of pistol whip, you know, making it even more like fitting for the class. Sure. Thief already has the third weapon skill as in fusion both weapons, so they could expand on it. Swashbuckler sounds like nice. Exactly. I think it's very fitting. What do you think about the Chinese hints? I actually don't know anything about the Chinese hints because I'm not really like a big into teasers and stuff, or leaks rather. because for the most part, I feel like I will get the information, the correct information, when there is like, when we are guaranteed getting it from Arena and stuff. So I'm not the biggest like league enjoyer, but if there's some reason for that. Okay, I'm playing DPS, I guess. Yeah, so maybe we talk about it on stream. Do we have any more information on this leaks? But maybe I am not really interested too much into talking about leaks because we will get more information very soon, and that's good enough for me, I would say. So we take a lot of damage. The third symbol teaser is probably something like Mirage or Holosmith, where the symbol only makes sense after you see the class. Yeah, I think so too. I think a lot of classes actually will have something like that. I think we will not get like completely known all of the elite specs just by looking at the icons. I think like we get maybe 4 or 5 of the names we can guess. I think there will be a lot of them where we just have to wait until they actually announce it. I think that we could speculate about it, but to be honest, if you speculate about the Holosmith icon, you can speculate for hours and not get it right, because there is no incentive to make sure that this is like the Holoforge icon. No real reason. So, and I think there could be so many like that. Definitely. Wrote quotes for each symbol. That's interesting. I like that actually. Cool idea. But then you also have the translation problem, and that's always like, sometimes you translate it a little bit differently and you can interpret something completely different in there. So what I would enjoy for Thief is a kind of Viper style class. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I agree. Sounds really nice. But that would be a little bit different than the Pirate Wing, for sure. Yeah, Holosmith are completely unknown, I agree. I think last icon is main hand focus for Elementalist. This is exactly how Wizard type weapon looks. I mean, that sounds like reasonable. But like I said, it could be anything, to be honest. The third icon is like, you can speculate about it, but in the end it might turn out like something like a Holosmith. We speculated forever and didn't get it right. So we will see. We will see. Doesn't mean it's bad. Just saying it's not that easy to speculate about. Not making any assumptions until I see an actual announcement from ANET. Yeah, that's fair. You will get it in, I think, 11 days now. So on 15th of... No, it's actually in 10 days only. On 15th of July. That's really good. We will see it quite soon. I mean, I don't know if the chat actually wants to see those quotes. Maybe if you have some people that are interested in it, we can talk about them, yeah. Expect nothing, never be disappointed. Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. Let's see. But I think we will get some big announcement on the 15th. I'm pretty sure about that. Otherwise, they wouldn't hype it that much. I hope. I would love if Necro had a proper Blood Mage elite spec. Blood Magic Dreadland isn't enough. Let me live my Hemo Mage Mancer fantasy. That is interesting, yeah. That could be cool. I mean, Necromancer, if it doesn't get some kind of minion spec, I think the most likely variant for Necromancer is some kind of vampire. I really think that could be very fitting to to Necromancer rather. Does it mean we will get it? No, not at all. I think it's quite likely that we get some kind of minion monster spec, and then the blood thing doesn't really make sense. But I think if we don't get minions, I think some kind of vampire makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I hope that the teaser on the 15th will be like a trailer and only shortly show the new skill classes, or just give the symbol colors so we can speculate a little longer. I think, to be honest, in my opinion, they should give us an announcement and tell us what the big selling point is, how it's called the expansion, and should tell us what the long road of the expansion will be. And they should give us the name of the elite specs. That's the only thing. And then nothing else. I think they should not give us more input, and then slowly, like over every week, for example, should put out one blog post talking about the new elite specs, one of them, or maybe give us one stream where they actually tell us how it works, how it functions or something, and showcase it even, stuff like that. I think that would be amazing. I'm not sure if they will do it. Maybe they will hype it up once and then they will leave us waiting for 2 months. I don't hope that's the case, because that's like really a bad marketing strategy in my opinion, but you never know. You really never know. In my opinion, just add the missing weapons of classes through the new elite specs. They could do that. They could do that, but like I said before in some previous stream, I am not a big fan of adding new weapons because a lot of the weapons that we already have are like either power grabbed or you don't use them because something else is more power grabbed in the same niche. So a lot of weapons don't really have a lot of like playground to actually play with. I think a lot of the weapons are like either they are very good and you use them. For example, Mesmer Spear. Mesmer Spear is really good in just all game modes for power. But because of that, Main Hand Sword for power DPS got like completely, no one would play that as a DPS option anymore. And I think if you add another power melee weapon, it will be competing against those two and you will not have like really good slot for it. And I think most classes have like all the slots filled. There are some exceptions like Warrior Main Hand Support, sure. But most classes have all the slots filled and you will always compete against something that's already there. And that's not good. That's why I want elite specs without new weapons. That's my take. Doesn't mean it's correct, of course. It's just my opinion. I wouldn't mind them bringing Revive Necro back, but this time do it right. So it's good in PvE and not OP in World vs. World. Yeah, I think that would be amazing. I think they don't want to make classes as unique and as broken at a specific thing. I really don't think this is the most likely thing. But I really hope we get some crazy cool unique elite specs. And that would be something really cool. Like I said, I think Minion Monster Necromancer is my prediction. So I think like reviving is also not really on there. But you never know. You never know. 36 specs is insane. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Sword is decent for power. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying Spear is better. That's the problem. As soon as you have something that is a little bit better, you will take the better one in like all cases. Only if you are like someone that really wants to roleplay and say I play the most like fun weapon to me, sure, you can do it. I'm not saying it's not doesn't make sense. But I think it makes way more sense as a developer to bring out weapons that are actually filling a specific niche that isn't filled already. And if you fill stuff like that with 3 different weapons that are like using essentially the same gameplay, that's not good. I don't see that actually happening. OSF Twilight, should I do it and sell and buy a new legendary spear? I mean, if you like it, sure. If you like the design of it, I think the new spear is a really good spear to get. Yeah, I would do it. One-hand sword on Mesmer should just do way more damage since it has not a lot of cleave, so it's basically a single-target powerhouse in melee. Yeah, I think the one-hand sword got a little bit overshadowed. I think it's surprisingly good in competitive modes because of the evade, because of the emob. But in PvE, it's like really, you have the boon rip on the 3rd attack, which is really good, but not a lot of fights actually require you to do so, especially because Mesmer has insane boon strip already with the Vicious Expression trait. So I think sword is like sadly in a weird spot and needs some kind of help, I would say. I think they should nerf down Spear and make it the AoE weapon, whereas the single target weapon would be sword. I really would like that, but you never know. Maybe they have some plan for it. New weapons just outclass other weapons. Only reason why Revenant is strong in PvP is because of Spear 4, probably the strongest skill in the entire game. Yeah, skill 4 on Revenant is like one, I would say not the strongest skill, but it's one of the best weapon skills. That much is for sure. Because it's like, it feels like a gravity well. It's a gravity well on a weapon which has like a 20-second cooldown, or not even that. It's really, really good. And I think, to be honest, stuff like that is just power creep. It's feature creep and power creep all together, and I think that's making it very hard to actually give us new weapons that are actually useful without making them overpowered. That's just like, I really don't see that happening a lot of the times, so I don't think we will get it. Yeah, or you don't have land spear, then you can't. Then you have to use the sword. Yeah, sure. I'm not saying sword is bad. I'm just saying spear on Mesmer is just the go-to weapon if you have access to it for sure. Also, clone generation on sword feels clunky and slow in comparison to dagger and spear. Yeah, like I said, the newer weapons, you can clearly see that they are core weapons and they are newer weapons. And the newer weapons are just more power crept, have more mechanics in them, and therefore feel a little bit more fun to play. The sword is very down to the ground, and it was like a core game weapon, and it never changed. It actually got nerfed after release. Because before you can actually, I'm not sure if you remember that, but in competitive modes, you could interrupt your sword 2 on Mesmer. And if you interrupted it shortly after you started casting it, it would go on the interrupt cooldown, so like 4 seconds or something. And you still got like a quarter of a second of blur So you could, for example, dodge attacks by weapon storing your 2 skill. It was really, really interesting. They removed that, and now sword is worse than it was in the beginning of the game, which is really interesting. I run sword, power chrono for fractals. Yeah, sounds like a decent bit. Yeah. Because we already imagined things for elite spec. Would you strip a mechanic of another class to make a spec like Anet does with Virtuoso? I think they would actually do that. I think that's actually somewhat realistic, but only if it's like really, really fitting for the class. If it's like absolutely like god tier for the class. They don't want to have drawbacks just for the sake of having drawbacks. Yeah, the healers are a little bit like slacking, to be honest. Yeah, so we will see what we get, to be honest. We can't speculate if they would do some drawbacks or if they won't, because we don't have any information what they actually want to get done with the elite specs. So we will have to see for sure. If they just adjusted weapons to hand AoE weapons, less power, single hand, single target, 3 side by side. Yeah, I think that there could be some crazy fair adjustments in terms of how you actually would change the numbers on that weapons. But I think they, at this point, they don't really care about balancing weapons that are already there and stuff. I think they really look at the benchmarks. You know, the latest balance patch made the benchmarks in PvE like 5k higher than before. And apparently it's okay because they didn't change it after that. They just nerfed it down a little bit, but it's still very, very high. So it's in my opinion, they don't care too much about PvE balance anymore, and I think that's why we don't see crazy updates to the elite specs weapons like Mesmer Spear or Mesmer Dagger and stuff in comparison to Sword. I don't see that, to be honest. Any personal ideas for that? So you would strip the toolbelt from Engineer to, for example, placing more unique towers? I think they did that, for example, with Mechanist, and I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses of Mechanist is that you don't have access to your toolbelt skills. The toolbelt skills are really, really good. By the way, thanks a lot for the Prime Exodus, really appreciate it. I would say they have to be really careful, because if you have a second spec that loses the toolbelt skills, I feel like it gets a little bit like, I wouldn't say like bad, but I think that is what you replace it with has to be really powerful. Because like the Mechanist, in my opinion, only works because it has really good like stats on the mech. For example, that you provide a lot of alacrity and stuff. If you don't have that and you strip the toolbelt skills, the spec becomes completely bad. So I think they have to be really careful about that. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I'm just saying they have to be really careful. Like taking away lifesteal. Away steal from Thief would be a big change. Exactly. I think taking away steal from Thief without replacing it with something similar would completely break the new class, and in my opinion that would make the class quite bad. So if we had it before, if we call it like Plunder or something and it has a different effect, maybe it's like, maybe it becomes a dash or something and you can't like shadow step anymore with it, but it has a more potent effect because it's like, for example, it's an evade or something, and you can also use it without having a target. Just saying, something like that. Then in my opinion, it's a decent replacement because it has some kind of usefulness without like making it like bad for no reason. But I have to be honest, is it very likely that we will get something like that? Maybe. We really don't know what they actually, how big of a scope they actually have with the expansion. I can't tell you. I'm not sure about that. Instant PvE is the least played guild was 2 game mode. Ain't it Dev finally realized that PvE balance is optional? Yeah, I really think so. I think balancing in PvE, they really think we just don't care anymore. I think that's what they do, and that's why they give us a lot of fun new elite specs that don't really care about balancing. I really think that's the case there. I really think so. Where's my... there. It would be really cool if instead of giving the new elite specs new weapons, they gave an existing weapon power creep overhaul and make it the spec main weapon. That would be interesting, yeah. They actually could do that and it would be really fun, but it would not sell as good. That's the problem. You always want to have stuff that sells very well because it has crazy power creep. If you just add something that already exists and make it a little bit like, okay, we want to give you more reason to play an old spec or an old weapon. I'm not sure if that's like the most probable scenario, to be honest. But maybe, you never know. Spectre does that? Yeah, Spectre does that. And I think that's good. That's a good thing. And if they can do that again with this Thief, with the new Elite spec, sure, that works. But I think if they remove the tool belt skills from Engie without giving a proper replacement, I think that's a problem. That's my main argument here. Mech also works with toolbelt trade line, as those skills are tools. I use it on my power mech. Yeah, sure, it makes sense. I'm just saying they have to be really careful for specs that they introduce with removing stuff, because removing stuff is very likely to be a negative that has to be at some point be a positive as well. And if you can't make that happen in at least one of the game modes or two of them, it struggles quite hard to actually be like reasonable to be played. Okay, there we have a 101 here. Nah, I think this guy's dead. No, I will not kill you. There we go. That's a lot of damage. It was the whole shroud is gone. And I blinded the elite skill. That's good. That is a lot of shroud, right? Why does this guy have so much shroud still? Now he's dead. Never come out of shroud if you are almost dead. There we go. Variant spec where you have only one legend, but you can slot in skills from all other legends. I mean, that would be power creep or feature creep, like to the insanity. It would be really fun and really good. I don't think that will happen though, because that's like, in my opinion, probably not as easy to implement and also very hard to balance. How would the legend rates work? They give you something when you swap to this legend. How would that work and stuff? So I don't know. Could be interesting. Elixir Thief? Yeah, sure, could be. Some kind of Elixir Thief? Why not? That sounds like a really cool idea. Some kind of Elixir Pirate Thief? Why not? Some crazy interesting idea. Okay. Life floats by, my heart drifts with the clouds. Armor turns into feathers, mountains turn into sword blades. Silver flows into inner 1,000 shapes, summon shadows, shaping attacks. Really interesting. Sounds like cool ideas. I have no clue what that means though. You still believe the new images are new elite specs or completely new classes? No, there will be elite specs. I don't see them adding 3 new classes. That's like absolutely insane. They will not do that. I don't see that. It's too much of an effort for development. I don't see it. Elite specs are way less effort. Thanks for the follows. Paragon? Ritualist? Yeah, sure. Could be, yeah. But about the Drunken Thief, they could a burn-oriented thief with torch offhand, like drinking rum to spit on enemies. Sounds really cool, but I think you really need torch for this spec of this fantasy. And I'm not sure if you actually get a new weapon. If we get a new weapon, sure, torch could be it. I'm not sure if we get a new weapon though. That's like my biggest prediction. If it's just an elite spec without crazy new like weapons on there, then stuff like that is a little bit less likely. But you never know. You never know. Maybe they give us a weapon as well. That could be really cool. As usual, if there are all new elite specs, there'll be some very cool concepts no one expected. Exactly. Some overpowered, everyone plays that, get nerfed, and a better weekend or 2 or 3. Yeah, sure. And I think that's completely fine. I think that's really good in my opinion, that you have stuff that is like completely crazy, no one expected it. Because if everything is like very predictable, I think that's not always the best choice. So let's go crazy. Didn't get someone. Always go on the backline. Core Mesmer. No, thanks. Give me offhand power sword for Thief. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people asked for. But like I said, I'm not sure if we get a weapon. I really don't know if we get a weapon. We will see. We will have to see. They would need to release a class with 3 elite spec right now. Yeah, I think it's very unlikely that we get a new class. I really don't see it. I think it's elite specs to 90%. Yeah. In my honest opinion, if we get a Ritualist, please make the Ritualist stats the meta stats for it. That would be so funny. I mean, Berserker on Berserker stats is also not absolutely the meta. You run a lot of Condi builds on Berserker as well. So I think, yes, could be funny. I'm not sure if it's like guaranteed to be like that. But we will see. The biggest thing is the 15th of July. I'm so hyped about this and how interesting it will be for sure. It will be like a big debate and crazy cool content to talk about this. Hopefully it will also really deliver on that and not just say, oh, the expansion drops at the 28th of October. That's it. You know, if that's the only announcement we get, I'm really sad. I really hope we get a little bit more than that. If Ainit introduces a new weapon that better works on Weaver, the hammer and staff dual skills are just such a joke. Yeah, I think they have to really think about how to do that. And I really don't think it's actually gonna happen for one of those reasons that you just mentioned. Yeah, perhaps they have more than 3 interns working on new expansion. Yeah, that could be the case. I hope so. Could also explain why they didn't do that much stuff for the current game, because they were working so hard on the new elite specs, because it's apparently way harder to actually implement all the elite specs. So we have to see. We will have to see. Yeah, spear, exactly. Spear, staff is the dual skills, and staff are quite good. I was wondering. Yeah, one hammer and spear skills are not that good. That's true. They are really weird and really lackluster. Even though the hammer variant is actually quite potent in PvP right now. But shouldn't they have released a new image yesterday? No, I think my prediction is they released 3 images over the course of last week. And yesterday was the 4th of July, where Ainit employees have a day off. So they don't work there and don't release the image. And then we have 5 days coming with the next week. And then we have Monday, which is the last day before the expansion announcement. And in my opinion, that's 6 days for 6 more icons. So 6 more elite specs. That's my prediction. That's my most likely scenario, I would say. Would be cool if the Thief Elite spec had a good guy theme, like a Vigilante, to flip it around. That would be really interesting. I'm not sure if Thief fits that, but maybe. You know, Spectre is also some kind of Necromancer for Thief, so we can, yeah, maybe. I basically one-trick my Mesmer. I hope anything else won't be interesting for me. Okay, so you are reverse psychologizing, you know, you want to not have any interest in other things. That makes sense as well, you know. I think there might be a lot of cool elite specs coming though, so you have to be very, you know, rigid about your Mesmer playstyle. But Mesmer will probably get one of the most broken elite specs as well. Mesmer is like always very broken when it releases. Elementalist is always very broken. So there are many elite specs for a lot of classes that are, I can tell you without them knowing what they actually look like, I'm pretty sure they will be broken. Yeah. New elite specs would make me go full for a new race at some point. Maybe. Yeah. With all the talk about new elite specs, let's hope the content to play has better quality too. To be honest, you know, I completely understand that argument. But me as a gameplay enjoyer of Guild Wars 2, I would buy the expansion if there would be 9 elite specs in there and no new maps. I'm not joking. I would still play the game. I would play the same old content with the new elite specs and I would have fun. That's obviously a special scenario because I enjoy gaming and enjoy just having fun and not really caring about having new content to be played in. But I would still buy it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a holiday in the US. Exactly. I'm scared. Don't be scared. Be hyped about it, you know. Embrace it. I might actually play something other than my Revenant 2, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's the cool part. If you have the existing veteran community that is quite like, I wouldn't say like narrow-minded, but at least likes to play specific classes more than others. And if you break that open, because for example, you have Mesmer players that see the Elementalist spec and say, nah, that's not for me. And the new Elite spec looks so fun that you try out Elementalist and then you see, holy shit, why didn't I play it way earlier? I think that's a cool thing in my opinion, you know? That's something that is like, in my opinion, perfect for a developer. So I really hope that they actually do stuff like that. But we will see if it's like that good or if it's just my hyped up copium here. We have so many maps at this point that I don't mind as well. Yeah, exactly. I think really fleshed out cool new elite specs are way more important to me than giving us crazy amounts of new maps, to be honest. But you never know. You really never know what they actually provide there. I just hope that that's not focused on story, that we just get story missions that I do once and then I'm done and get 9 new elite specs. I think that would be a little bit sad. You know, they should focus on something that I have to replay stuff. For example, maps, fractals, whatever. Just replayable content, you know, that I can farm like for the next 2 years and not do story once and I'm done. I think that's not very good in my opinion. Can you pre-order expansions? Yes, you can. Not right now, of course, because it's not even announced yet, but you can pre-order them. Would buy the expansion just for having 40 slot packs. Yeah, that would also be true. That would also be true, yes. Yeah, I'm a backslot enjoyer. What can I say? I'm sorry. Do you think adding new maps in the game will spread the players too much and old content will be ghost town? I think we see that already, that a lot of players engage with old maps only when there are events. So yes, you are right, there might be some like spreading too thin, but, and that's the important part, I think they can counteract this by doing some cool return to events, weekly buffs to the world bosses there. I think they are trying to automate that stuff to make it more interesting to go back to old level 80 maps. Yeah, I really think so, they should do that for sure. Well, it's good news for the game, let's just hope they won't disappoint. Exactly, that's the biggest hope. And I have to be honest, the elite specs that they put out before were not disappointing, and I think that should be the same. Some new raids would be sick, yeah, but I think it's highly doubtful that we get new raids. I think you could see the player base is so small regarding raids and instance content that they will not put out raids. I'm really sure about it. Maybe we get a strike mission, maybe we get a new fractal, but I don't see getting a new raid. I really don't see it. You need to try to find something to play. As example, I started a second account and choose Scrapper as first character because I want to play DPS. And Boon DPS and open world with the same gear set and weapon. And through I really enjoy Scrapper that I made it one for my main account. Yeah, exactly. I think that's really cool that you just, even though you're a veteran, you think this is like the game style gameplay that you like. You at some point might even say, that is actually not true anymore. I tried something new and it's actually way more fun than I expected and I stick to it. I think that's really good and I hope the new elite spec will perform the same thing for a lot of players. Yeah. I was doing Vision a while ago and the maps felt empty. Yeah, some of the maps are really like not that alive anymore. And especially if there's a no meta event. For example, Jahai Bluffs has the Death Branded Shatterer. This dragon people will kill whenever it spawns. So there are some people doing it, but if you spawn like 1 hour before that, there is nothing happening, and then people like are not really there only for completing the map or doing some achievements. So they have the problem of some maps feeling empty, but if they put out like a weekly buff to some world bosses, giving them more rewards or general all rewards in the specific time of the week, that would be, in my opinion, something that could help a lot to revive stuff, to make, for example, some farms on the maps happen just because you get more rewards there. I think that could happen. To be honest, I'm doing the legendary amulet thing at the moment, and silver waste took ages. Yeah, even silver waste, which is a surprising, like, active thing to be farmed still. If that takes ages, then that's obviously not very nice. But I mean, what can I say? The game is a big game, and a lot of people play open world, but it's still, like, there are so many maps now to be spread, especially if there's a crazy farming map. People go mostly to this one. That's just how it is. Like at some maps, I barely see someone. Yeah, that's a little bit sad, to be honest. But I mean, like I said, what can you do as the developers? If people ask for new maps, you deliver new maps, and then people don't go to the old maps. I mean, that's just an inherent problem. So you have to make it like Auric Basin, like the Heart of Thorns maps, where people go back because of the meta events, because they are really fun and really like giving you a chance of an infusion, stuff like that. So I think they have to do that with the new maps as well. I'm surprised that Silver West of all maps was empty. I see plenty of squads daily. Yeah, I actually think if you do it at the correct time, I think you get a lot of squads that actually farm it, even though it's like not the best gold farm anymore. It's a very decent one in its core, so it's really good because of that. My guild doing maps every other week as an event, so we play a whole Saturday afternoon for doing achievement on the maps. I mean, that's really cool. That's nice of you, yeah. I'm trying to do the amulet, but I just cannot stand to do the story parts. I just don't enjoy story. I'm with you. I was so happy when I was done with all the story things. So you can actually shortcut a little bit of it if you do the world versus world and PvP reward tracks to skip some of the stuff, because you can unlock the skins there as well. But of course that only works to some extent, so just wanted to mention it here. Yeah. I got the legendary amulet today. By far the hardest part of completion was finding people for bounties. I mean, you can solo most bounties actually if you run my solo builds. I'm not joking. I have on my YouTube channel very good solo builds. You can easily solo all of the bounties. Yeah, all of them. If you use a very good dedicated solo build. If you want to see that done, you can actually check out Nomixia's channel. I have that on my YouTube channel linked as well. They are having crazy videos coming up when they solo raid bosses and solo bounties, so you can actually do that with some really good builds as well. But I see your point. I see your point. New players sweating in Verdant Brink, then they take the chopper to Matriarch to find it's already vaporized in seconds. Yeah, I think there is like a really big split between people that know how to play the game or that actually understand what currently is happening. That there is this one boss that gives you all the rewards, all people camp there, and it's gone in seconds. But then you also have the problem that people are like dying to the frog hero point like 10 times. So yeah, that's like Guild Wars 2 in a nutshell, open world, for sure. Next Saturday will be Sun-Swept Ice for the achievement with the bag. That is true. I just reminds me here that there is actually a return or some kind of, I think return to Living World Season 4 or something, or some kind of return to achievement is coming up quite soon. That will be interesting as well for the rewards. Let's see what it actually provides. I'm playing through Chantia Act 3 right now. My god, it's a slog to get through. Yeah, it's really bad. The bear's talking so slow and it's just story and no gameplay. It feels really bad. For someone at least that doesn't enjoy the story. I was streaming it and I was happy to talk to chat meanwhile and I was not listening a second. It was insane. So yeah, I'm with you with Winslow. By the way, is there like a section in the achievements tab where you can check all current weekly tasks, just like dailies? You can, for that one, I think you should check out, how is it called? Guild Wars 2 Efficiency. Guild Wars 2 Efficiency has a whole tab about daily and weekly things that you can do. And you can see what is actually still not done by you. And you can check stuff that is really good. So I think efficiency is really good because of that. Guild Wars 2 definitely one of the few games where you can't skip the story. Yeah, that's feels so bad. You know, the problem is, if you could skip the story cutscenes or the talking scenes, the story would be doable in like 1 hour, typically, of a release. Because you skip all the story and you just have gameplay for, if at all, 1 hour. And that would make it so bad for them, the image, what they actually, they are somewhat interested in story, but the story that they actually put out is so little that it's only 1 hour. People would be like insanely sad about that. Even though we don't get more right now, it just feels longer because it's like you can't skip it. So I think they do it because they want to overshadow or just hide it a bit, that the story is actually not that much stuff around. Yeah, I really think so. So let's kill those guys. Oh, there's someone coming. Oh, it's a lot of people coming actually. Nah, I don't think I can survive that, to be honest. Yeah, that's too much damage. Too much damage, sad. Yeah, I always like, I can understand why you watch something different in the meantime, for sure. I can understand it. 100%. You can't skip it. You have to farm open world events to continue. Insane long dialogues. Exactly. I think the story experience in Guild Wars 2 is one of the worst in any MMO I've played. Because it feels like, even if the story lore is interesting, you have to like do so many activities that are just very boring. You have to listen to dialogue for 10 hours. You have to wait in open world to get open world events to spawn. You have like, the dialogues are not very like interactive. So it's just like you listen to them and they are not really like telling you that much in the end anyway. So I'm not a big fan of how story is delivered in Guild Wars 2. That much is for sure. Hey, I'm a new player. I started 2 weeks ago and I'm in level 80. yeah, sure. Welcome to the game, and I hope you have fun. If you have any questions, let me know. We are all happy to answer here in the chat on our Discord server. And of course, check out my YouTube channel. You know, I have a lot of cool stuff there as well for new players as well. There's an enemy. No, they mounted in time. Almost. I rather read on wiki than playing the story in game. Yeah, I can totally understand that, to be honest. Just get the summary of the story. Yeah, exactly. I can see that. I can see that. It would be fine if the story wasn't so mandatory for progression. That is true. If it's like some kind of like niche gameplay section, yes. But you have to play the story at least once to get to the new maps and stuff. So it feels really painful. Of course, if you, for example, want to get the new relics from PvE only, you also have to do the story. So there are many ways why it's actually quite annoying. So I totally agree with you, for sure. There was nothing that could prepare me for the lengthy Stoic Elder speeches. They are a real gem. Yeah, that is like... Oh my god, the ramp just denied my... What? How did I get corrupted so fast? Oh my god, there's another one coming. How many people are on me here? Now get the kill on this guy. Please, 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 please. Kill on this guy. Nice, I get the rally. Very good. They are actually annoying me. That's mean. They want to kill me just because I'm here. They follow me over the whole map to kill me. If I played a different spec, I actually could beat them. I'm just too squishy on this build. Chantia's story is that bad? I wouldn't say it's bad. The story is okay. It's just very slow, and I'm not a story enjoyer in general, so I just want to get it over with. Then it's really bad. But if you enjoy the story of Guild Wars 2, I think it's okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. That's just my take. Welcome, Christopher. What better as a beginner with hero points for one elite, Dragon Hunter or Firebrand? I think Firebrand is way more challenging than Dragon Hunter, so I would probably for a beginner go for Dragon Hunter first. Firebrand, in my opinion, is more endgame and is really like, if you play it very well in all game modes, it works really good, really well, but only if you play it very well. And that's why I would recommend Dragon Hunter, because it's like the easy DPS spec, does a lot of damage, just play that, have fun with it. But supporting is not possible on Dragon Hunter, so if you like supporting, Firebrand is the better option for sure. Yeah, some parts of the story are really good. I'm just feeling like the story lost a little bit of this like speed and fun of it in like at least Chanter Vals. I think in Soto at the end definitely as well. So I'm not big of a fan of that, let's say the least. But that, that's just my impression. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big story like enjoyer in that sense. I'm playing story because I want to get it done, and I'm done with it, and then I never repeat it. So I can't tell you this is like the only thing that is the problem with the story, because I don't listen to it for the most part. Yeah. I'm doing my first training raid tomorrow. Can I play Heal Boon Chronomancer already? Or would you recommend learning the encounters first on DPS? It depends what kind of encounters you're talking about, but I would say learning on Heal Chronomancer is completely fine. It's so broken, it doesn't have a problem, even if you don't play the encounter perfectly. But be aware, on some encounters, you are supposed to do some mechanics, but if you are doing a proper raid training with people explaining it, then it will not be a problem. I think it's a somewhat of a misconception that you always have to start as a DPS. You can easily learn an encounter on a support build as well. It's just you have to have people to tell you what is your role and what you need to do in the fight. So don't worry about it. Chronomancer is completely fine. Are all classes balanced in World vs. World? I've been trying to get into World vs. World with my Mesmer Mirage, and I'm not really doing well. All classes are playable in World vs. World. In Zerg play, it's a little bit more rigid. So if you play 50 vs. 50, sometimes it's a little bit worse for some classes. For example, Ranger and Thief are not really like typically known for being really good in Zerg. But in roaming, so that's what I'm doing right now, just playing alone and trying to kill people that are just running around and trying to flip objectives and stuff, then all classes are actually surprisingly good. But yes, you're right, World vs. World is not the most balanced game mode. There are some classes that are better than others, for sure. PvE and PvP are way better balanced, I would say. Joining PUCs as a first timer is something that I wouldn't recommend. That's something I would say I would not recommend. If you want to learn a raid boss and you are playing it for the first time and you want to really not get carried by allies, but also understand the boss after you killed it and not wipe for it 10 times, then I would say one of the best ways to do it, go to a raid training Discord like Raid Training Initiative or the Crossroads Inn or something like that. They have really, really good people there, and you have weekly raid trainings for all bosses, I think. It's really, really good. I would highly recommend it, but don't do it in PUCs. If you do it in LFG, you have no control over how people react to you and what they actually do, so it's very chaotic. Yeah. World vs. World is too diverse in gameplay to have proper balance, to be honest. As much as I like to trash talk a net balance team, I think World vs. World balance would be impossible to achieve. Yeah, I actually totally agree with you. And I think actually that's a very hot take. And I will release a video about it actually next week as well. But I think balancing in games, in my opinion, balancing in games is overrated. Yeah, that might be a hot take. I think balancing in games is not as important as that it is fun. So if you balance according to your fun, it's way more important than if everything is perfectly balanced. Every class has exactly like the same DPS output, has exactly the same like play rate in all game modes. I think that's not what you actually want to achieve. You want to achieve that every single build or most builds that are played are very fun. And fun to play against, fun to play with, whatever. So I think this is the most important thing in balancing, is making the stuff fun, not perfectly balanced. And I think World vs. World is a prime example of that. I really think so. Yeah, you get kicked if you have like 50, if not 50 KP, then, you know, it's a lot. Either you are in a completely unexperienced PUC group or you are in a really experienced group, or a supposedly experienced group. So yeah, it's just World vs. World is, or I would say raids, in my opinion, are like a little bit like, go into the raid training Discords and you will have an easier time. Don't engage with pugging before you don't know the mechanics completely. Yeah. Yeah, fun is the most unbalanced thing. That is completely true. I'm just saying that should be the most general thing that actually happens. Yeah. It depends on the type of game too. Yeah, of course, of course. If you play only PvE, I think balancing is not as important as it's in competitive modes. In competitive games, it's way more important that you have fair matches and fair balancing. Not only like Scourge being absolutely broken and nothing else. That is not good. You want to have something that is balanced for sure there. But I think it should still be fun. And in not competitive games like you only play PvE, I think it's actually not that important. You can just play the most fun thing too, not the most broken thing. I think that's my take. The game is supposed to be fun. What a hot take. Yeah, exactly. It's a very hot take because some people always want to play the best thing. Some people, even new players, join my channel on YouTube, on Twitch, whatever, and ask me, what is the strongest class right now? I want to play this class. And this is, in my opinion, already the wrong question to ask as a new player. You should always ask, what kind of class is the most fun? Or how does the new class look like in this and this game mode? Yeah. So this is crazy that people ask that, you know. But I mean, I give you the answer. Should I sell my Gen 1 legendary from Kit for 1.7k or wait until prices rise? I'm not sure if the prices will rise back up, but if you're patient, you can wait and see if it rises. But if not, you have to wait, I guess. Oh, that was a last-minute teleport, my friend. Welcome, Alison. Welcome. Good morning to you as well. That's a lot of damage, to be honest. Gotcha. 70 health. Get the cap. Nice. Now I can reheal. Typical MMO player syndrome? Yeah, for sure. For sure. I only play S tier builds from Silmar's tier list. Yeah, I think that's not a good thing. I think that's not how you should play the game, to be honest. But I mean, if you enjoy playing stuff that is like really, really broken, sure, go for it. I really think everyone should play the game as they wanted to play. But if a class is S tier and you don't enjoy it at all, then you should not play it. I think that's my main take here, sure. Always gotta have to play the best, not the most fun. Yeah, that's a typical MMO player thing, yeah. Guild Wars 2 has such a high skill cap, just learn to play. Yeah, that is also true. Guild Wars 2 skill ceiling on almost any build is like insanely high, which is not always a good thing because the skill floor is always also somewhat high sometimes, so sure. Yeah, but personally for me, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth if I find a playstyle has much fun, more work if it's weaker, and other classes playstyle can clear things faster. I can totally see why you would say that other classes that have to like is way better at something that's a little bit bad. I can see that, but you in an ideal world, balancing should be that classes that fill a similar role should perform similar. They shouldn't perform perfectly balanced, but I think they should perform similar for sure, 100%. New people ask because we are scared of investment. That is completely fine. I get it. I get completely your argument there. I'm just saying, in an ideal world, you should play something that is fun because in PvE, every single elite spec works. There's nothing that is bad. Nothing. Every single elite spec can have a build that is really, really good even on high level. Do you like Ashes of Creation? I like it from what I've seen, but I will only judge when it's fully out. I'd recommend new players to play as an Asura with big floppy ears. That makes it fun to play, to watch at least, yeah. In my opinion, the most thing that holds me back is I can move my skills on the other hotbar. Yeah, I think that might be an argument for a lot of people. I see. I'd like to see a build video on a fun but super scuffed build. Okay, interesting. Interesting challenge. I will see what I can do, actually. I will see what I can do. The cast time on Willbender, Blink, Teleport, Dash throws me off. Coming from Virtuosa and Vindicator? Yeah, I mean, Willbender is like, if you do your combos correctly, you have like, you cross like 2.5k range in a matter of half a second. It's crazy, yeah. Welcome, Beowulf. Welcome, welcome. The build that I'm currently playing is just a classical Willbender for World vs. World roaming. I have a build guide about it on my YouTube channel. The only thing that I changed since then is I'm using Relic of Venom to get some more protection because I'm a little bit squishy on this build. But you can easily go for different relics as well. I'm such a sucker for putting my skill combos into a line. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I think customizable UI for Guild Wars 2 would be one of the biggest features that is missing, for sure. Would you recommend Spectre for a new player? Does it have a build I can play in most content? Yes. Spectre is really, really good. I think Spectre right now is one of the best builds that you can play on Thief for all game modes. So I have actually a video about it on my YouTube channel where I talk about one build for Spectre for all game modes, so you can check that one out. But in general, highly recommend Spectre for new player. It might not be the easiest class to learn, but it is very fun and is very like useful in all game modes. Yeah. Troll build tier list time. Yeah, that is like a very interesting tier list, but there are so many troll builds, I don't know how to judge them. Yeah, so would be interesting. People only chasing wins and meta builds is generally a gaming issue. Yeah, making mistakes and exploring the content is part of the fun. I agree. I think you should, of course, you should strive to get the best, the best build in the end, but you should try out yourself and have fun, and not only like play only the best thing, and not only like, if people tell you this is the only thing you should play, you should try other stuff as well. But that's just my take. Maybe someone only wants to play the absolute best, and that's completely fine as well. Just saying everyone should play the game as they wanted to be played, and not always hear to people that are playing the game for 10k hours already, because sometimes they are just like saying this is 1% worse than another build. Don't play that, even though the new player will not have any impact there. So sure. Really important. Play the game as you enjoy it. You got any Power Harbinger guide? Is it good for PvE? Power Harbinger is really good in PvE actually. And I don't have a guide about Power Harbinger for PvE yet, but I have one for World vs. World and PvP, where it's currently meta actually. It's one of the best builds to be played. And yeah, it's really, really good there. What is the easiest and fun SPVP class and build for doing my Astral Dailies? People there have played for 10 years and everyone is meta Sweatlord. It depends what kind of class would you like to play, because all classes can be played in PvP for high effectiveness. Which class would you like to play, and I can recommend a build for you there. Exactly, understand a build and not only copy it. That's why all my build guides are like at least like typically 10 minutes long, because I'm not only showing my traits and my gear and that's it, but I also explain why I chose this and why I chose those skills and stuff. So a lot of people just copy it and say, yeah, that's good enough for me. But to play a build to its fullest, you actually have to understand why I make those choices and why I maybe change stuff around if it's depending on the current situation. So that's really a good point there. Just be aware that many builds for new players doesn't always include mentions some weapons used need Soto expansion to unlock or spear. Sure, that's always a big problem with an MMO, that they have some kind of like telling you this is like, what can I say? This is a build that is very good if you have all expansions. But for new player, that might not be the case. So it's somewhat a little bit of a challenge for me as a content creator to make builds for everyone. Because there's always someone that says, oh, I don't have Chantia Wilds, oh, I don't have Soto. So it's really a little bit challenging. I try to mention it in my build guides, but of course, keep an eye out for those. Yeah, I can see that, Livra. There's so many cool builds to be played on those classes. It's actually surprising, yeah. Nice, yeah. Yeah, I like it when the people in chat are actually quite like friendly and sharing their knowledge, Snowbleeds. That's what we want. That's what we want. Range and Warrior, I'm comfortable with. Thief is squishy, Others seems too complex. Oh my god, how many people are coming again on me? Again, 3 people. Oh, 4 people. Nice, I got one. That's not enough, I think. I got 1 against 4. That's good enough for me. Yeah, the gang patrol. Yeah, but it's okay. So I would say right now Condi Soulbeast probably. Condi Soulbeast is a very good build. It got nerfed multiple times, but still very good build. I would recommend Condi Soulbeast because it's an easy build, somewhat easy. It's hard to master, but easy to get into. It does very good DPS, is quite forgiving because it's quite tanky. You can play it on a side note, but you can also engage team fights with it. I would recommend Condi Soulbeast. Beowulf, that's my thing here. Do you have any thoughts on Heal Harbinger in PvP after the staff rework? I think Heal Harbinger in PvE works very surprisingly well. Heal Harbinger in PvP though, I think that's like, you don't have enough like crazy support in there. You know, your Shroud is not supporting at all. And that's a big problem for Necromancer spec that doesn't have any support in the Shroud. So I would say you can play it. It's not like complete garbage, but in my opinion, you should probably play something that is a little bit like more supportive, like even if you wanted to Scourge, then the Transfusion is even better. I think Harbinger is a little bit too much of a meme pick, to be honest. Does Trapper Rune have any alternatives? So you could go Undead Rune, you can go Nightmare Rune, Krite Rune, depends a bit on your build. Those are typically my recommendations. Nightmare is typically the best other, but Nightmare is also locked behind dungeons, whereas the Trapper Rune is locked behind crafting. So I think Undead is the one that I would recommend from the trading post, or Afflicted, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, the brain power in this combo, yeah, I see, very good. I mean, you know, the Thief can be played very easily and spammy, but can also be played somewhat like high intensity, I can see. I'm good. I got off the game, had to move from my country, so much happened so fast. Oh. Hopefully you're doing fine. I left the Tempest. Can now heal with Aura, and now I see Elite Specs announced. Yeah, it's crazy. There was a lot of things happening in the last 2 weeks or something, so I'm really happy about that. Finally, more positive stuff to talk about Guild Wars 2 again. I'm really happy about that. You know, I'm after all a positive guy, so I really like to talk positively about the game and not only say, yeah, right now nothing is happening. So yeah, I'm happy about that for sure. Yeah, sure, have fun, Beowulf, have fun. Yeah, there are many cool things actually to explore in the game, I would say. It's surprising how many cool builds Guild Wars 2, the new last balance patch actually brought out. It's really surprising. It's such a surprising amount of cool builds that we got that are also, in my opinion, healthy for the game. So I'm really happy about that. Hopefully we'll continue with that, and also the new Elite Specs hopefully bring that as well. Yeah, the game feels super live now. You know, it's really like because of the Elite Spec announcement and just the new balance patch. I think a lot of people are just coming back to the game and playing and having fun. I think it's really good. I really hope that Lara wants to talk to me at some point. You know, after all, it's like it would be really cool about having the positive streamers talking together about the game. But of course, she has to be interested in that. So maybe if someone in chat can actually talk to her or bring it up at some point, I would be really excited to bring that up. Exactly. Would be really cool. I tend to tunnel vision my into rotations. Yeah, I mean, that's a typical thing to do in MMO games, to tunnel vision your rotation, but it's not always a good thing. So sometimes it can work, sometimes it's not. Sunless rune is cheap and gives some same condi stats, but not condi duration. Yeah, Sunless is also good, but don't forget, I want to bring that up here. If you do a build and you lose any condi build that is not kept at full condi duration, yeah. So let's look for condi duration runes, yeah. Give me a second. If you look for stuff that has condi duration on there. So everything that gives you condi duration is like 10% more condi duration means 10% more damage. So it's like insane if you lose condi duration without actually getting any value back from it. So keep that in mind. Condi duration is really powerful. Yeah, it's really, really strong. So always try to get that to 100% for your main damaging condition. Yeah, I would be really hyped to talk to Lara. Really, really hyped. Yeah. That is, I like to talk to people, yeah. I'm not sure what Lara actually likes about Braham. I'm not sure about that, so I can't give you any comments there, Black Magic. Maybe we have to debate that as well. But I'm obviously not the right person to talk about Guild Wars 2 lore, you know, the person that streams the whole Chancia Wild story and didn't know, I can't tell you what happened. I really don't. I just did the story once and it was doing it on stream. I didn't listen to it. So maybe I'm not the right person to judge about Braham, but would be an interesting debate for sure. Really, Sepla is playing Guild Wars 2 right now? Crazy. I know her actually, and it's actually really cool. Really nice actually, to be honest. Oh no, they are coming back again. Okay, is this a Condi hub? I don't know. Maybe? No, it looks like power. Oh, another one. How many? Why are they always running around as two people? Okay, I think I got this guy. Maybe it's actually possible to survive this here. Get the kill here, I guess. Wow. Nice, we got this vulnerability. I will catch up in chat in a second. I just have to make sure that I get the kills here beforehand. Nice. Very good. Yeah, there were some bears. That was the main story thing that I know about Guild Wars 2 Chancia Wild story. But that's about it. can't bear with the Chandler Wild story. I get it. Good one. See you, Winslow. See you. Thanks for the Prime Black Magic. Really appreciate the support. Yeah, but I really would like to talk to other streamers, other content creators about Guild Wars 2, because I feel like since we don't have any tea times anymore, I would really have some kind of conversation going about the game. Just that we have some, content creators coming together, talking about the game and bringing up some hype about the new elite specs and just having some conversations with the community. I think it's really sad that the Guild Wars 2 community is, at least on social media, is very non-existent. It's really small. And that's sad because the game is very much alive and people just don't experience it as that. It's really sad because of that. Yeah, exactly. Darren's talked to me already, but I think I'm not sure if Darren's is like giga into Guild Wars 2 right now. I think he doesn't stream Guild Wars 2 that much anymore. He streams only the like reveals and Guild Wars 3 analysis and icons and stuff. But maybe with enough hype, we get like the whole gang back. That would be amazing. I would love that, but you never know. Some people like don't want to engage with speculation. That's fine as well. I'd watch that. Yeah, that's good. Then bring it up in Lara's chat and in like all the people's community and just get some action going. Let them know about me, about other people that actually want to talk about stuff in some kind of debate, some kind of podcast style. Yeah, I'm up for that all time. Yeah, exactly. He is actually into speculation, Darren's. I think the problem is Darren's is not really interested in the new content that they release anymore. It's more about the new features and stuff, which is completely fine as well. Just had a crazy idea. The new images released as elite specs could be companions to use in open world, only like heroes in Guild Wars 1. That would be insane. That would be like, if they bring Guild Wars 1 heroes into Guild Wars 2, in my opinion, this is like the guarantee. This is the guarantee that this is the last expansion. I really think so. Because that means that they make it the most like insanely amount of just, how can I say, automatic gameplay or solo-friendly gameplay that is possible. Oh, my friend, you did a mistake. Oh my god. The instant stealth. So sad. Okay. I mean, I have the allies here. I think I should get the kills here. This guy is dead, and now we should pressure this guy as well, just to make sure. And I mean, you will not win this, my friend. Oh, that was surprising amount of damage, I have to be honest. I gotcha. There we go. For the orb, he made whole argument why it can't be Ellie. I mean, to be honest, I think it might be either Ellie or an engineer, but that's just a hunch. I don't have any clues. The golden era is now? Yes, I hope so. I really hope so. Guild Wars 2, like 2025, 2026. This is, the year of Guild Wars 2, I don't know. We will see. We will see. As long as you're having fun. Yeah, that's true. As a new player, I can't help but feel like I've missed out on the golden era of the game. That might be true. You might be like not in the absolute best, like where the most amount of hype was going on and the most amount of players were playing. Maybe, we don't know that. But that doesn't mean it's not a fun game anymore. So I would say, in my opinion, if you enjoy the game and if you enjoy what you are seeing on my stream, just play it, have fun. It doesn't matter if there are like 10 times the amount of players playing than before or not. It doesn't really matter. Just have fun. How long until Guild Wars 3? We don't have any confirmation there, but I think it's at least 3-4 years. Yeah, that's my prediction, Inferno. But we might get some announcement earlier. We don't know. Guild Wars 2 got so many quality of life upgrades. It's so much better. More than back in the day. It's just people are nostalgic. Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think Guild Wars 2 is in a very good spot, especially when it comes, for example, to balance and just in general having fun and having different builds to play and stuff, especially in PvE. It's amazing. And I think Guild Wars 2 got better over the years. But the community, how many people are playing and how active, for example, PvP is, how active the raiding scene is, that stuff was better. I can definitely tell you, that was better before. It's not a nostalgic feeling, it's a fact. That doesn't mean it's bad for the new player, it's just it was better at some point. Yeah, I mean, that's okay. Not everything has to be perfect when you want to play a game. Just good enough so that you can play it. Yeah, then you can make a lot of new legendaries. That is true. That is absolutely true. You have a lot of time to do that. Where's my food? There it is. Yeah, it's much smoother to play. The currency are more streamlined. It feels more. There are way more quality of life features in the game. It's just in general, I would say Guild Wars 2 feels a little bit more like adult now. In the early days when it released, it felt like it is good, but it has some flaws, some major flaws, and now it has way more cool, like adult feelings for sure. At least that's my opinion. And the Wizard's World is one of the best features in the game right now, especially for new players. It's really, really good. Sure, good points. Still lots of new players coming in. 100%. It's like the game is like drawing a lot of attention lately, even though it didn't get crazy updates. It's just new players actually being interested in the game again, because like no new MMO is actually really coming out that is crazy good right now. So Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, they get actually more interesting again. They are back again. Can we get some kills this time? I have to go on this guy. That's the sad part. Maybe the Scrapper is a good target as well. Oh, that's so much damage. I have to disengage a bit so I can get line of sight. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's too much damage. Sad. Will there be any more DLCs coming? Yes, there will be a DLC in October. Probably because of the Wizard's World, I can predict that the release of the expansion will be on 28th of October. To be honest, Guild Wars 2 is my first MMO. It was the best MMO, and the community is one of the best gaming communities I've ever seen. That's good. That's good to hear. I like that. Hopefully you get more good experience with the game. I came back like 3 weeks ago after 6 years as well. Yeah, I mean, that's good. You know, I want to have more people that come back, that then start to playing the game. That's what we want. We want to have more fresh blood or somewhat fresh blood coming back. That's what we want, you know, just more engagement with the game back. You know, it's a great game. In my opinion, it deserves way more attention. That's why I became a content creator in the first place. Which server did you end up on after the relink? Let's check. I'm on Frost Citadel. We will see if that's a good server or not. We will have to see that one. The last one was horrible. We didn't get any good fights, so we were just stomped and spawn camped. So I really hope that this one is better. But you can't influence it, you know. I just will not play the World vs. World then in the next few weeks if the server is bad again. Many other MMOs flopping right now. They are not consistent and they are just too pay to win. Yeah, exactly. And I think Guild Wars 2 has the just really long amount of content releases already. That helps a lot. And it is just a very good game to start with. So I think a lot of people, even though it's not the newest MMO, it is definitely a really good one. Yeah, I was not really happy about that last week. It was not that good, Haroon. Yeah. Guild Wars 2 is always a great MMO. It's easy to access through free-to-play to get the taste. There is 14 years of history plus Guild Wars 1, and it doesn't force PvP but has it, separate fun PvP areas. Exactly. Guild Wars 2 has so many positives why I would really recommend it to new players to try it out. And it has amazing amount of just replayability, and it's, in my opinion, has the best, like, how can I say, you pay like, for all expansions, like 50 to 100 euro, depending how much, or dollar, depending on how much you buy it on sale. And you get like so much content, you don't have to pay anything after that anymore. It's so much efficient money usage, it's insane. It's really, really good. In my opinion, yeah, Guild Wars 2 is pay to skin, yeah. Mostly spoken NPCs add a lot to NPC. Yeah, if you're into that, sure, that helps a lot, yeah. Is Rev still a solid class? Yes, Revenant is really good in competitive modes especially, but even in PvE it has really, really good builds for all roles. Yes, very much so. Exactly. No subscription is a huge plus for the game. It has like you buy once and you can play the game forever. You can reach thousands of hours for the same amount of money that you would pay for some kind of AAA self-proclaimed game that you buy once. Yeah, it's insane. Really good. Anyway, my gold used to buy Chante Wilds DLC? No, you have to, that's the only thing that you cannot buy on the gem store with gold is the DLCs, so the expansions themselves. Yes, you have to get the DLCs with real money. Yes. I asked my friends to play this game, but they didn't like the graphics, so they dropped it. Yeah, that's a little bit sad. I think the graphics can be quite decent if you turn it high. If you turn it really high up, I think the graphics can actually be decent, especially if you use reshade and stuff. I think it can actually look quite okay. But I can see the argument why you would say that's not my most favorite game because of the graphics. But if you look at Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, in my opinion, they have worse graphics, or at least a different kind of style. So I think the contenders, OSRS, for example, the graphics is horrible. Yeah, so it's really like you have to understand that the game itself is old. Yeah, that's it. And the competitors are also old. It's just how it is. Yes, you can buy the deluxe upgrade with gems, but you can't purchase the real expansion. So you can get the normal expansion and go and get the upgraded deluxe version with the gems. That is correct. Yeah, and reshade helps a lot, definitely. Just imagine trash mobs and fractals actually had mechanics and fractals would scale endlessly like Mythic Plus and WoW. Yeah, that would be insane. And that's my biggest hope for if they will ever push out Guild Wars 3. That's my biggest hope that they have something like that. I really think so. That would be insane in my opinion for replayability, 100%. But the art style is not for everyone. I can see that. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. I think it's completely fair if you try out a game and say it's not for me. That's fair. And that's the cool part about Guild Wars 2, because you have the free trial. I don't like to tell you as new players that Guild Wars 2 is free to play, because in my opinion it's not. It's heavily restricted. It's more like a free trial. You can try out the core game and enjoy some stuff, and then you will at some point in time have to purchase the expansions, which is in my opinion the ideal way to do it. If you enjoy a game, you have to spend some money to continue playing it. That's good. So I think Guild Wars 2 has some kind of free trial. That's how it's played in my opinion. Reshade makes the graphics like night and day, so beautiful. Yeah, Reshade is really good for that. Another hurdle is that the naming of things is so different than in other games, like boons instead of buffs, condic lens instead of dispel and stuff. Yeah, Guild Wars 2 always wanted to be different, and that's not always for the better. I would say for most parts it's actually worse. You know, letting strike missions be called strike missions, even though they are like single encounter raid fights, is also not a good thing. Making fractals and not telling that it's a dungeon, it's also not good. Nowadays they call them fractal dungeons, but still, there are many decisions, especially with the naming conventions, that are not that good. And they are just for the sake of being different, but that's not always a good thing. Oh my god, I can't fight without just... Oh god, what's going on? I can't fight this build. That's impossible. This is an intense 101. I don't like to fight Untameds because Untameds are just strictly superior in the 101 in 101s. But maybe I can. Let's see. That was so close. I actually almost got the kill here. That's crazy. I had 3 different friends drop the game because of the graphics. I mean, that's sad. That's really sad, to be honest. But now we gotcha. What? How did that work? I don't think there is any other game that has a concept like World vs. World. Yeah, exactly. I think World vs. World in Guild Wars 2 is so unique, and it's a really great selling point I really think that's a good thing, but sadly they don't market it as well. I think that should be a really big marketing thing, and they don't do it, sadly. And that's obviously a problem. You know, if you don't market it, you don't promote the game mode, then you will not get new players to enjoy that one. That's the sad part. So I really hope they put out more like advertisements for it and that kind of stuff. Would be nice to unify the naming conventions. I don't think the average player knows enough to tell the difference between strikes, raids, and convergences. Yeah, I really hope they will do that at some point. But I doubt it, to be honest. I really think ArenaNet is very focused on creating new stuff and not reworking old stuff, even if it's just naming. Yeah. Thanks for the follows. Really appreciate the support. They should have a team dedicated to World vs. World. It improved the game mode. Yeah, that would be insane if they have that. But I think the balance team, which is like typically called the balance team, is, I think, taking care of balancing, taking care of creating competitive modes, and is taking care of managing how the game modes should be reworked and stuff. So I think the balancing team right now is like insane in what they actually do all together. But maybe I misread that, but I think they are really like taking care of all regarding Guild Wars 2, and I think a lot of the studio is actually working on something else. I really think so. But let's hope it's worth it. And I think Guild Wars 2, especially with the new elite specs coming, I think there's actually a lot of fun to be had with, even if there is no new content coming. I'm actually really hyped for the expansion, just because of the elite specs. I'm not joking, really. I've been playing since launch and the graphics are fine. Yeah, I agree. I think the graphics, you know, it might not be like absolutely god tier graphics, but I think they are okay. But it's like subjective. You can't say this is like perfect graphics. Someone else would say this is not good enough. Yeah. There will be new elite specs coming with the expansion. Yeah, it's like 90% confirmed. We will get the real announcement of the elite specs in 11 days, 10 days, on 15th of July. But before then, we get some icons, and it's quite likely that we get expansion with elite specs, yes. Do you think if there really is a Guild Wars 3 in the background, would they go nuts with the elite specs? Yes, I think so. I actually, that's my prediction. I think the elite specs are like completely over the top and will be really fun and really break the game. Because they think Guild Wars 3 is somewhat in the future and we don't care about balancing too much anymore. We saw that with the reworks that are crazy and really fun with the latest balance patch, and I think that will be the same with the elite specs. That's my prediction. Yeah, people still play OSRS because it's a good game, even though the graphics are shit. That doesn't matter. If the game is good, people play it. And it's the same for Guild Wars 2. The combat is good, people play it. It doesn't matter if the content is like not as like fleshed out anymore, or we don't get like one raid a year anymore. No, we don't care. We play the game for the combat, for the skins, for maybe if you like the graphic style, sure, but you play it for the game and not say, this is like I only play it because it looks so good. That's really what I think. Is Guild Wars 3 really confirmed? No, it's not. It's definitely not. But it's just very likely that they're working on something in the background. We have like 50, I have multiple videos about it, just a summary here. There are 50 people at ANET that are specifically got employed in the last 3 years that are not working on Guild Wars 2 right now. They are working on some unknown project. That's just a fact. And it's, in my opinion, quite likely that it's some kind of Guild Wars 3. But that's just, you know, the summary of multiple videos on my YouTube channel, speculating and giving some more insight on that. But yes, we need a confirmation of ANET to actually get any like guarantee that this will be coming or not. Yeah, for sure. So, and I think with that, we had enough this debate for today. I hope you enjoyed my stream. It was really fun. I had a blast. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. We have some nice content there and even more content coming up. And I wish you a very nice weekend. See you all around. Have a nice day. And thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for all your support. And see you around. See you.